Yeah, still doesn't matter. I mean, there was Jews that worked within the Nazi government command structure as well. It's just like
no, there fucking weren't. You lying fucking pseudo-intellectual frat fuck. What are you talking? There were Jews at the higher level of the Nazi government. What? This is the problem, man. This is the problem with comparing everything to. He's watered down what Nazism means. No, the Nazis had a policy where you actually had to prove that you were an Aryan to get into the party. You had to be an Aryan.
I had the misfortune of seeing it in real time happen as I was like trying to figure out what had taken place. And we were one of the first media outlets that actually broke the story. Shots fired at Charlie Kirk event at Utah Valley University.
Really? You broke the news before several, you're one of the first outlets. You're literally reading this story on the Daily Mail, you fucking liar. Why does he do this? Why does he go into these other platforms and just try to sell an image of himself that is completely fucking opposed to what he does all day on his stream? Without further ado. So our boy spoke to Triggernometry, the most horribly named YouTube channel in all history, podcast, which is not like him. It's not like him to go into these kind of conversations where he might get challenged. But we'll see. Either he's going to get the shit kicked out of him if we go foreign policy, or he's going to focus on all the things they agree on. Because these guys are like populists. They'll agree on some things.
Hasan Piker, welcome to Triggernometry.
Nice to be here, guys.
Why the big sigh?
Italy's Mussolini and Adolf Hitler's
World War
Nazi
II
Germany
history. I love it.
Ruthless, fascist forms of governance. My fear is that that is where capitalism inevitably leads. There's too much instability. There's too much chaos. We need to restore order.
Is there a country that's done socialism the way that you like?
I would say China is probably the closest, I would say, to an example that we should follow.
Like communism in America?
I think that communism would be most likely an international thing. It'd be like the Star Trek universe.
You think the Reform Party is
I think
fascist?
Reform Party, as it stands currently, is a nascent fascist parliamentary group that has...
They're going to get into a UK debate. Oh, no. I don't think Hasan's equipped for a UK debate. Oh, fuck. Is that a good idea?
Reached is full potential yet.
Relax, relax. This isn't an ad. If you're not a fan of ads but love Triggernometry, join the thousands of Triggernometry members who get extended interviews, no ads, early access, and the ability to submit questions for upcoming guests. Sign up now at triggerpod.co.uk or click the link in the description of this episode.
Hasan Piker, welcome to Triggernometry.
Nice to be here, guys.
why the big sigh?
We'll see. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
I'm getting cooked right now.
Yeah.
For those of you at home watching. And this has got to be extra weird for you guys because you're British, and this is what the sun looks like normally.
Yeah, no, it's nice to know. We are enjoying it. I'm sorry about the sun. This is
where the fuck are they? Where is this?
And this is what the sun looks like normally.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Is that London? I don't even know what the fuck I'm looking at here. It's not a bad view.
Nice to know. We are enjoying it. I'm sorry about the sun. This is not deliberate. We're not trying to.
Oh, LA. Oh, I thought he said I thought he commented on the UK. Did I mishear what he said? Okay. Right. That makes more sense.
Literally. But welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you. Like, you obviously got a massive...
Oh, I thought he was like pointing at... Yeah, that's why I thought he was pointing at them and saying, oh, this is the sun in the UK. Or like, yeah, okay.
Twitch channel.
Okay, that's smog. Okay, I got you.
No, we are enjoying it. I'm sorry.
There's nothing about the fucking UK looks like this.
About the sun. A little bit about you. Like, you obviously got a massive Twitch channel. You're very
the industrial smoke. They somehow transported to Manchester in fucking 1850.
Successful streaming. Twitch is a gaming platform, but you talk on there, and that's what people follow you for. How did you get there? What's been your journey through life?
I started my professional media career, I guess, as a nepotism recipient at my uncle's 26-person YouTube startup media network. I feel like calling it a media network is interesting because, like, at that point, it was smaller than like a mid-tier podcast, you know. But I started there because
with 26 employees. Okay.
I just wanted to not live in New Jersey. I wanted to live in LA, and that's where the Young Turks headquarters were. And I, much like virtually all of my peers, came out of college with double major, great marks, and no job prospects whatsoever. So I was like, all right, I'll just start off my journey here, and it'll allow me to not be in. It'll allow me to be in LA where I want to be, right? And slowly but surely, I worked my way through the ranks there, offering a lot of free work, just as a fill-in producer or fill-in guest host whenever someone didn't show up, they were sick or something. While I was actually doing the advertisement stuff on the back end, I was basically the singular advertisement operations person. Not only was I creating client lists, but doing cold calls, trying to get DR campaigns going for the Young Turks and like fill the inventory of the Young Turks with some brand names that I think everyone is now familiar with, like Squarespace and things of that nature. That was a big client of mine initially, but I hated it. And I thought, I think I could do better if I were on an on-camera position. And so, but the problem was I was horrible on camera at first. And I just kept going through it. My girlfriend at the time was like a model trying to become an actress. She was like, one of us has to actually work. And she was like, you should keep doing the advertising stuff to make money so that I can be, a model, an actress, whatever. And I was like, okay. And even a bunch of my friends were like, maybe you should stop doing this on-camera stuff. You're not very good at it. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing it because eventually I'll get better at it. And I guess over the years, I did get somewhat better at it. But while I was at the Young Turks, I was doing all this stuff. I set up this show called The Breakdown. It was very successful because it aligned perfectly with the Facebook algorithm turning on the faucet for video content. Mm-hmm. This was when everyone was doing the pivot to video, BuzzFeed and all these other places. There's a company called Upworthy. I don't know if you guys recall. Way back in the day, they were getting like tens of millions of views a week, and my videos were getting like 30 million views a week. I was contesting Tommy Lauren's right-wing commentary at the time.
Queen.
And that was when I first made a name.
I can't believe she's still going.
For myself, I guess, as a leftist political commentator. But I wanted something more. I wanted something that I could call my own. I wanted a sense of community for myself. I didn't want to be under the umbrella of the Young Turks as much as I was. So I thought to myself, I play video games already when I'm not working. Might as well go to this platform called Twitch. It was a video gaming platform at the time, even though there was some commentary happening there as well. And I decided I'm just going to strap on a PlayStation camera onto my PlayStation 4 at the time and start live broadcasting and while I play Fortnite. And I have a bunch of other friends who are journalists, activists, organizers, and whatnot that I play Fortnite with anyway. So we'll just talk about political issues while I do this. Now, there's a couple different reasons why I did that. Like I said, one, because I wanted to have something of my own, a media property of my own. The other reason was because I recognized that the gaming side of things, like the gaming culture side of that space, was heavily dominated by right-wing commentary.
He might, man, if I was Destiny, I would kill myself. He might as well just be sitting there with these guys being like, yeah, so, I like politics and I like video games. And, on Twitch, I was thinking, what category do I fall? Am I under video games or there's no politics category, but, we're playing video games and we're just chatting. So I guess they came up with this, just chatting category, I suppose. Fucking brilliant. So good.
As gamers were much more diverse in their opinion, myself included. And I wanted to present an alternative. I also wanted to go against the grain, because at the time, we're talking like 2016, 2017, at the peak of like woke SJW cartoon.
I wanted to, not really follow any trends, not really. Oh, he's so funny, man. He's just. I need to get some props for this bit. I don't actually know the Hasan Destiny backstory. The backstory is that Hasan started streaming on Twitch. He started streaming on Twitch to about 30 viewers. And I think his gaming streams went up to like 100 at points. And then he had that debate with Charlie Kirk, and then he made contact with Destiny. And then, because Destiny was already doing this, he was already debating people and playing video games. And then Hasan kind of like jumped into that sphere, and then they became fucking friends. And then that's when Hasan blew up on Twitch. And I think when he blew up, it wasn't over gaming, wasn't it? It was when he was watching fucking Gordon Ramsay and shit. Because all those people like Denims, all those people, they would watch Kitchen Nightmares. They would just watch like regular or fucking Chris Hansen sometimes. Yeah, they would just watch like regular shows on Twitch because no one got in trouble for it for a while. Yeah, but obviously now he's just kind of whitewashing the fact that he kind of piggybacked off of that trend that had already been started by befriending Destiny. Oh God. That is so funny, man. I just need some props to go with this. I need some appropriate imagery. There we go. There we go. Okay, tell us. Tell us about your Twitch going against the grain. Just kind of, I just thought, oh, I like this and I like this, and I put it together. Oh, whoa. And then just stuff started to flow.
Depictions of what the left represented. And there was some validity to the arguments that were being presented. Obviously, it was like the most maximalist, most ridiculous depiction of the left. But some people would lean into that a little bit, where they were like, no, we are like this. We are joy killers. We are woke skulls. And I was like, I don't think you have to be that. I think you can have fun and also still have progressive values. And I wanted to basically show that to a audience that had maybe never really encountered that. And I wanted to be in an environment that I was comfortable in as a male who games. And that was a very male-focused gamer space, which was. And last but not least, I wanted to get better off the cuff. Because up until that moment, I had always scripted my content. I was writing it. And
fun, he's always miserable. Hasan didn't always used to be this wired. He wasn't always this triggered. That was something, a recent thing in the last couple of years. Hasan used to be quite funny. Like, you'd turn on his stream and he was like either talking about fucking hogs, Republicans or whatever, or watching or just playing video games and like just joking and shit like that. Yeah, he used to be a lot more he looks like he used to be a lot happier. I don't know what happened.
Then I would actually take the writing on my videos and turn it into a Huffington Post article. So I would just like reformat my scripts into an actual article, and that was fine. But I wasn't very good off the cuff. So I thought to myself, if I can play video game and talk about politics at the same time and be able to entertain people, maybe 30 at a time, maybe 300 at a time if I'm lucky, then I can get a lot better at public speaking and speaking off the cuff. And as you guys might have figured out by now, I never shut the fuck up. So I guess it worked.
And you mentioned progressive values and that being something that's important to you. What are progressive values, would you say?
I think progressive values, for me at least, are founded around empathy first and foremost, to try and uplift everyone's material conditions to the best of our ability, and focusing on protecting those who need protection, and simultaneously advancing a cause of the way I think about it, advancing the cause of unlocking the potential of every single person, no matter where they are. Because right now, there are probably billions of brilliant people that never actually get the opportunity to unlock their true potential because of where they're born. Like, they might be born in Sudan, in a village that is being overtaken by the RSF. They might be born in India to an impoverished neighborhood and are not going to have the access to education and therefore be able to truly revolutionize whatever sector they might be interested in revolutionizing. And I think that's what I want to do.
This is the clip you want me to talk about.
I will say this, despite
what the fuck is he wearing?
Reality, despite the fact that Hong Kong is such a formative fixture in Western culture, I swear to God, the entire time I was waiting in the line and I was thinking in my mind, why are there different systems? One system, please. Just pure convenience, okay? And I think out of sheer convenience, because of how inconveniencing it is to go from mainland China to Hong Kong, I'm not kidding. I think people will be like, no, look, come on. One system.
Okay. It's the Hong Kong system all over China.
Unify now. This is ridiculous. Pick up the pace,
it's
please.
Like it just, he doesn't talk about it. He doesn't remember, if Ethan hadn't brought up what had actually happened in Hong Kong, you would never have even heard what happened there in like 2019, 2020. You would never even known what the fuck had happened. That the Chinese government basically came in and fucking crushed the protesters and clamped down on free speech and civil liberties and autonomy and everything else. Like, you wouldn't even know it happened. He had to acknowledge it after he was prompted. They did kind of, clamp down on some civil liberty.
What the fuck's going on? It's ridiculous. And I will tell you
It's
exactly.
true. I feel exactly the same about the West Bank. Checkpoints. Just bro, there's already a government. There's already a functioning liberal democratic state there. Just take all of it. We can think about civil liberties later. Apparently, if we're doing the Hong Kong thing. Imagine, dude, it's so disgusting. Oh god.
Why? I will tell you exactly why right now. Okay, I heard it has the highest concentration of Michelin star restaurants. That makes sense. I mean, the city is slammed. So, I'll tell you why. I have a visa. I have a visa from China. And in our group, I'm the only one who only got a 1-day visa.
Okay, that's fucking cringe. Wait, what? Did you give me a different timestamp there? Oh, 1433. Admits to a factual fuck up. No way, he never does that.
I even go to
Let's go context.
like see Oda pacing. I'm calling China right now. I got the hookup. Do it, King. Do it. Anyway, we fucking crossed the border. First, I found out that you can't even go to. First, I found out you can't even go to Hong Kong without additional clearances, whatnot, because different system, right? I thought Hong Kong was already officially, formerly a part of mainland China. It's not. There's still a different system here. It's still very British. I mean, the outlets are fucking British. Cars are driving on the wrong side of the road. They got it all, right? Once we cross the border, once we cross Customs and Border Patrol, Chinese style, Irene pulls up to me and goes, "I have to look at your passport." I'm like, "What?" Because remember, we're supposed to be going to Shenzhen today. I was supposed to do a day trip to Shenzhen because Shenzhen is 15 minutes out from where I'm at, okay? Hong Kong.
Yeah, but I swear sometimes when he talks about China, he doesn't really seem to go any. He doesn't really seem to go any farther than just the fucking trains and soying out over the Red Book. Does he actually even know anything about China? I feel like I've never really heard him talk really in depth about anything to do with China. It's all very. I know I expect him to be pamphlet, post-it note analysis, but I didn't expect it to be that shallow.
And what do you think is the way to, because I think that's probably something the left and right actually agree on in my experience, the center left, the center right, they're kind of moderate. But I suppose the disagreement probably is about what you think is the way by which that happens. So the right might say, well, the answer to that is capitalism, right? I imagine you don't agree. So how do you think those things get, those people who don't currently have opportunity both in this country, in other Western countries, but around the world, what's the mechanism by which they get those opportunities?
I think creating a robust base of support, like a minimum social safety net for all, is the way to do it. And there are many different ways of achieving that result. I don't think capitalism has been able to do that. What I mean by that is capitalism still revolves around the inherent contradiction of at its most reductive way to put it, someone's got to clean the toilet. And in an effort to make sure that there is always going to be people that are wage laborers, there is this dynamic where was
this filmed while he was in China? I don't think so. Did he get back already, or
we can't advance humanity too much. This plays itself out on the international scale in unequal exchange, where if we were to allow a lot of the third world to develop to a certain degree, then
we couldn't afford it.
Things would be far too costly. We wouldn't get the cheap materials and the cheap natural resources that we need to extract so that we can have an iPhone for the reasonable price of $500. Or even that's increasing now.
Why is it the case that the third world countries have experienced economic development over the last several decades? They've been developing the entire time. I don't understand. People come up with this idea that that it's a very, very standard Marxist-Leninist talking point, which is that all these social democracies, when they attack Sweden and Finland and Norway, they'll say that the only way that these Western liberal democracies get to sustain social welfare is because they plunder the shit out of the third world to do it. And when you look at these countries, you can respond to that in a couple of ways. One, you can look at these countries and all of their top trading partners are usually each other. It's other Western liberal democracies and other developed and stable countries. Because if you want to trade with a country, one of the main things that you want that other country to be is stable. You don't want to trade with an unstable country where moving stuff in and out is like really dangerous, or there's like gang theft and there's fucking warlords and shit like that. That's actually not really that advantageous compared to having a stable society to trade with. It's just not. And it is true to a degree, though. There are some things that are obviously quite cheap because of exploitation in the third world, but it's quite often a lot of things that people don't need. It's like fast fashion and fucking jewelry and shit like. But I'm just like, that's all stuff that Hasan likes. I don't. Anyway.
I personally think that if we were to do that, by stopping our endless and needless and cruel militarism in the global South, and allow these places to develop, extend an open hand to them.
Like when he's talking about this, like, can you elaborate on like which particular countries we're talking about here, where there's the third world countries that capitalists or capitalist states? Because again, maybe I'm missing something, but he's talking, so like, people always refer to this so vaguely. Like, which country is out there, like they're trying to develop and they're trying to build themselves up to become like a stable, prosperous economy to trade with the rest of the world, and America's like, no, we're going to send troops in so we can fucking kill people who try to do that. Where's that happening?
That we would allow society to flourish in ways that we previously have not foreseen.
I guess your point about cleaning toilets is interesting, because something we've addressed a lot on this trip
exposing
with
the communist Ottoman who makes his money in a capitalist system. Thank you.
Thanks, Joan. Thanks for the 99.999. We appreciate that. Whoa, $100. Hell yeah. Thank you so much. At your service.
right, left, center, etc., is the incredible wealth inequality and the speed at which the gap is, that's growing. There's a big problem. People on the right don't want to admit it, and it's true. But on the other hand, someone is always going to have to clean the toilets, right? Like, we have a pretty big safety net in the UK. And what that's mainly done is trapped a lot of people in a place where they don't have to work, and they therefore don't. And also,
that is not true. That is just not true at all. We have job seekers allowances. People spend varying amounts of time on it. Generally speaking, the more generous the job seekers allowances or unemployment benefits are, it does not correlate with people just becoming unemployed forever and languishing. Countries like, I think Denmark or Finland in particular, like, these countries have very, very generous job seekers allowances and unemployment benefits programs, and they don't have massive like unemployment because of people just like drip feeding off the state. It turns out that most people would like to buy and do shit, and you need a job to do that. Like, people, the whole like an entire lifetime on benefits is not actually a very attractive lifestyle, and it doesn't produce like a significant like economic impact with the amount of unemployment that it produces. That's not true.
You talk about, important people from other countries to work for less. Kind of the consequence of that is it suppresses wages for the people in the country as well.
It's also not true. I mean, you can look at wage suppression coming from immigration, from research that even Boris Johnson's government tried to commission. They tried to prove that it caused wage suppression, and the numbers that they found were absolutely tiny, and they were also only on very specific parts of the workforce, because the economy is never as simple as one input produces one output, or is one cause, one effect. It's never that simple. Immigrants also allow industries and companies and businesses to build up that otherwise just wouldn't have, because they might have supply enough workers for a particular company that wants to start, and then that company that starts needs to employ managerial people, and those managerial people might be local. So the wage suppression argument is never held up. Like, any loss that comes from slightly diminished wages in the terms of like less than 1% from immigrants is offset by the amount that they either pay in taxes or that they produce through just like the fact that they're working there, or through jobs that can be created by the presence of immigrants. Because more immigrants work, more stuff gets produced, stuff gets cheaper, people can buy stuff for cheaper, employers have more employees to access, so the workforce can grow quicker and businesses can grow, and then that means middle income jobs can grow as well. Like, you just don't see this where like large numbers of immigrants who come over specifically on visas where they have to either study or work, causing some kind of like economic catastrophe. It just doesn't happen.
It's where they don't have to work, and they therefore don't. And also, you talk about, important people from other countries to work for less. Kind of the consequence of that is it suppresses wages for the people in the country as well. So who would clean the toilets if we...
So great question. Let me address the wage depression aspect of this,
Sure.
because this is the one area where sometimes I hear
don't
Tucker
agree
Carlson
with
talk about
them.
it, and there's
Don't
like some
fucking agree with
nuggets of
them.
truth in there.
If he's a left, he's going to agree with it because it's like, but it's the capitalists that are doing it. So if we want to protect the native workers and all this shit, like we're going to concede on that. But just as long as you take the fight to the billionaires, Corbyn tried to do this as well. It was such a fucking stupid thing to do.
Because yes, importing labor into the country will always depress wages in the absence of good regulation. And good regulation in that format would be demanding wage parity, and also not creating any other external factors that actually cause you to have a...
What about Eastern European countries? The populations of these Eastern European countries have, for most of the last 2 decades, been in decline, haven't they? And I don't think those economies became much better for it.
a more servile labor force. What I mean by this is I want to use the example of H-1B visas. The reason why H-1B visa system exists on paper is because there are certain highly skilled positions that, as it stands, our American companies are unable to fulfill. They're not able to fill those roles with the domestic labor force, right? That's the on paper. In practice, of course, it creates a more pliable labor force that you're bringing in, oftentimes from highly skilled countries that are still desperate, even if there is higher wages on average on the H-1B visa program, because if you lose your job, you get deported. Nobody wants to get deported, so they will do everything in their power to stay and work as hard as they physically possibly can. So this creates an environment where I think our bosses, our capital owners in America, are like, why would I get an American worker who is in comparison to an Indian worker that's coming into the country that is desperate to keep this job? Why would I hire the American worker? I can pay the same fee to the Indian worker, or even a higher fee, as a matter of fact, to the Indian worker, because I know that he is going to work harder than the American labor force. So there is this competition. The way to solve that competition is through regulation.
Would you care about this as an internationalist, though, if like international workers can do a better job and get paid better for it? Wouldn't that be... Why would you care about there being a border in between them?
If the workers that were coming in from poorer countries were coming in with the knowledge that they are not going to be immediately deported, for example, and they have wage parity with the domestic labor force, this would actually make American companies think twice before hiring someone just as a replacement for the American worker, because they wouldn't get any additional benefits as a boss. They wouldn't get the additional benefit of like, I'm going to work you to the bone, right? Because I know if I fire you, you're gone. You're gone out of the country and you want to be here. So that is a regulatory mechanism that we never implement in this country, because our capital owners actually enjoy the two-tiered labor structure that we have here.
And come back to the who cleans the toilets, even when there's a social welfare system.
I think that ultimately there's going to be people that fulfill these roles no matter what. And increasingly with automation and with AI, we're getting to a point where the route tasks are already being delegated to robots to begin with. So the way I see it is there's always going to be someone that is tasked with either overseeing it, if it's a robot.
There's always that answer. Any fucking issue we've got in describing communism. For ages, it was robots. Now it's going to be AI, right? Yeah.
Doing it, or directly
automation.
Doing it. But since
Fully
it's
automated.
an important factor in the commodity production, because someone has to engage in sanitation.
The philosophers were so foolish. Who guards the guards? Automation, bitch. All right.
I think it's much more valuable to ensure that they have a sense of autonomy and that those positions are hired and have enough. They have enough replacement labor force so that they do less hours in general and still get a decent amount of pay, and so that they can still feel human and have some sense of autonomy in the labor force, where they can do that job and still make an honest living and be able to feed their family, and also have some free time on the side to pursue whatever hobbies they want to pursue.
So the way to achieve that would be like what, a really high minimum wage, or like what's the way to get there? Like, because I agree with
the Comey case was dismissed without prejudice. That means they can file again, but it basically confirms what everyone thought, which is that it was dumb fucking charges. Is that it?
With the idea that people who are working every kind of job should have free time and make a good living. The question is, how do you do that? Because in a market economy, what you are paid is a function of what you produce, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to say no to that, Hasan. It's a function of negotiation between the two classes.
I think in a market economy, what you are paid should be what you produce. I don't think that that's how it works in the market economy. I think in the market economy, your replaceability is what determines your wages,
Hey.
especially if you are replaceable by a non-domestic labor force, for example. That depresses your wages even further on the domestic front for the citizen labor force. So I think you're right, though. In the market economy, your output should be the determining factor. It's actually a socialist position, ironically enough. Not all socialists are against the market, and I would say that the output is the most consequential factor in that regard. I agree. What that means, however, is that if the company is actually, for example, increasing its output and therefore generating more revenue overall,
Again,
then
I always wonder, like, how do high immigrant countries like the United States become like the highest paying countries in the world because they also have lots of immigrants. What else? You got like Netherlands, Sweden, Germany. These are countries with lots of migrants.
everyone down to the most replaceable aspect of labor, which would be sanitation in this regard, should still get paid a just wage, like fair compensation. Minimum wages is one way of doing it as a Band-Aid solution. I mean, but there are Nordic countries, for example, where there is no minimum wage because the minimum wage would ironically be a depressing factor on the overall average wages that people get. How have they achieved this, though? They've achieved this through sectoral bargaining. They've achieved this through robust unions and labor participation in these wage negotiations. And that is the reason why they don't need to have a minimum wage. The minimum wage in and of itself is a big point of contention in the United States of America and a lot of other Western countries, only because our labor union participation in the United States is at less than 10% right now, which is unimaginably low. It's lower than countries that we have dominated, like Chile, where we rewrote their constitution basically and wanted to unleash a wave of neoliberalism, sometimes in the hands of dictators.
Are they fact-checking them? The U.S. supported the coup, but the constitution was written primarily by Chile's own military regime and conservative Chilean lawyers. Okay.
Or like Pinochet, even in that country, there's still 15% labor union participation.
I think my understanding is that they did get help from the Chicago boys, though, who were very American.
It was still higher than the United States of America, which is crazy to me.
If you've been following the immigration debate, you'll know how different the headlines can look depending on where you get your news. We use Ground News to help us step outside the can compare Georgia US News. Scrolling down on the frame the rest on leaning place. Let you compare, care about getting to the truth and get what news. Talk about low skilled labour. So for context, my mother is a Venezuelan immigrant to the UK. When she was in the UK, she was a childminder. There was no minimum wage. My mum, roughly, I remember earning £2.20 an hour. There were no pension rights. So thankfully, like, I help my parents out. My dad helps my mum out, so she's not destitute. But that's what my mum's position.
The only pushback we'll be seeing is on-screen fact checks. Yeah, I think Hasan is very careful to avoid skirting into areas that there would be massive disagreements. And on the economics, it's actually, again, because he can just shapeshift. He can just shapeshift into being whatever, just like pro-unions. Let's deal with the immigration thing by acknowledging all the bullshit about wage suppression and just say to combat it with like wage parity. Like, it's all just stuff that these people would agree with, but it's obviously he's not really like pushing forward his communist vision with these solutions. But
if she didn't have me or my father. As somebody who is from Venezuela, I worry when people mention socialism because I've seen what's happened to my country.
Uh-oh.
How would you assuage the fears of people like me or people who come from a Cuban background
the United States.
who've seen the socialist dream, as it were, descend into authoritarianism?
Well, first and foremost, I would say that all countries, to varying degrees, engage in authoritarianism in general. It's just something that it's a function of the government.
Fuck it. I hate this so much. Like, it's the umbrella terms. It's like you want... When people do this thing where, who did I speak to about this? I spoke to someone about this ages ago. It's where people try to do this thing where they want to use loaded language or very heavy words like authoritarianism when it suits them to launch an accusation. But when it's put against something they're trying to support, they will broaden that umbrella, but to do the opposite thing, to water it down. So we're talking about authoritarian countries like what? Cuba and Venezuela. It's like, oh, all countries are authoritarian to some degree. What the? No, that's not how we use the word authoritarian, you fucking moron. We use the word authoritarian to describe regimes that don't have democracy, that generally don't have freedom of speech, that have that have quite coercive policing, that have often quite arbitrary policing behavior. That would be an authoritarian regime, not whatever the fuck. Oh, well, all states are authoritarian to some degree. You know, every state has a police force and which is the state's monopoly of the means of violence. That's not how you describe an authoritarian state. Jesus.
It obviously has the capacity to get out of hand due to external factors in many instances, like combating much more powerful forces that want to cause instability in your country. It's not a justification for it, but it is analysis in terms of like why these guys engage in the actions that they do in terms of suppression of all dissent, or even censorship, and sometimes even jail time. And the example I always use is the United States of America, not only in the Cold War, but even preceding the Cold War during World War I and World War II, actually had a practice of jailing all conscientious objectors, for example, who said, I don't want to fight in this war. They were like, all right, well, this is a world war, sucks this up, you're going to jail. One of the famous examples is Eugene Debs, a socialist who actually...
Yeah, but my guess is when you ever talk about this kind of stuff, when you talk about McCarthyism and all these kinds of authoritarian measures taken during the Cold War, then you'd probably think twice if someone's response was, yeah, but aren't all countries kind of a little bit authoritarian sometimes? Like,
ran from prison and I think achieved like 1.3 million votes at the time, which was probably the most electoral success socialists had ever achieved.
Talk to me about the Chinese famine. Well, everyone goes hungry sometimes. Everyone is a bit peckish. Fuck off.
He was a conscientious objector of World War I, which was the international Marxist position at the time. There was some deviation there. So I see it in a similar vein when these countries also engage in authoritarian actions, suppressing dissent, censorship, or trying to manage this dynamic of trying to continue doing governance while at the same time they have to like make sure that they're avoiding American intervention or Western intervention in general. As far as the fears that people have, assuaging the fears that people have in terms of what they've seen in their countries, whether it be Venezuela or Cuba, I think each country is different. Each successful and unsuccessful revolution is different. And I think it's important to understand the lessons and the failures, as well as some of the areas of success that these countries have been able to implement. Avoid the failures and try to focus on the successes, and hopefully you'll be able to have a long-standing and relatively happy form of governance.
I mean, I take your point.
Isn't probability-wise, aren't you just more okay with getting that if you just go with a liberal capitalist democracy? If that's the solution, if that's the approach you want to take, just like look at all these different countries that are developing or have developed and look at the failures and look at the successes. Well, can you just zoom out one stage and just be like, well, why am I sitting here being like, well, Soviet Union, oh God, whoa, collectivization, Holodomor, oh fuck, collapse, inevitable fucking internal collapse. Okay, well, let's go China. Oh God, great leap forward. Ooh, that's a bit, cultural revolution, probably not good. That could be me, it could be anyone. It could be the top of the party, could be an average peasant getting fucked over. Oh no, re-education, oh no. Okay, what about Venezuela? Oh, Maduro? I don't know about that one. Cuba? Well, I mean, bro, fucking... The only people who go to Cuba are communist Americans who want to do little fucking photo ops and then they leave again. But if you just zoom out one step, why are you only looking at the communist countries?
As to the conscientious objector, but you look at Venezuela, for example, and then the reason I'm using it is because that's the example I know best.
Yeah.
You know, you've got rigged elections, you've got politicians who go up against Maduro, they're either thrown in jail, as in the case of Leopoldo Lopez, solitary confinement for 2 years, or you have, I think it's Corina Machado, who got nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, but she is currently in hiding in her own country because she knows the moment that her whereabouts are known, she's going to get thrown into jail, may not be seen again.
Yeah.
She's American.
I'm not going to defend Maduro, but I would say that the logical through line, and it's important to understand the opposition's logical through line in this instance, is that these are forces that are very directly working with the United States of America that have tried to facilitate coups, even had an unsuccessful one all the way back in 2002 with Chavez, and numerous other instances, openly talked about implementing coups under the first Trump administration, and is openly now waging war, or at least threatening to wage war with Venezuela right now, encircling the entire coastline of Venezuela. With
the correct answer for this, by the way, is that for all of the economic and social and ecological failures that they've overseen in their time, the one thing you cannot fault communist regimes for is their leaders know how to stay in power. That's it. They know how to stay in power. They're very good at that. They're very good at the propaganda. They're very good at dealing with dissent. They're very good at providing some kind of baseline, I guess, for the people that they need to support them. That's it.
The most sophisticated weaponry known to man. In that regard, I think they see it as treason. I would go so far as say, in a similar scenario in the United States of America, I think, and this is not even a one-to-one dynamic because America is the most powerful nation on the planet, but China is getting up there, right? Let's see if China had, if in a hypothetical, if China had encircled the United States of America, and let's say in this hypothetical, I'm like very clearly someone who is going to China and talking to the CPC and saying like, we want Chinese intervention in this country because I hate Donald Trump, please. I think in that regard, America would probably treat me in the exact same way, if not in a worse way, ironically enough.
But would they throw you in jail for trying to run democratically? I don't think personally that they would.
They absolutely would, I think. You think the American government would not throw me in jail?
Well, yeah, if Trump was a dictator who, absent American activity or absent Chinese activity, is still a dictator. Yeah, if Trump was a dictator, then yes, he would behave in a... Why are you doing this with this hypothetical? Yeah. Okay, yeah, let's say that, first of all, you got China surrounding the country, like another rival imperial power surrounding them, but also that your leader is a dictator. Yeah, of course they would do dictatorship. What's this comparison?
Jail if I was in a comparable...
If Hasan's smart here, he can say that America had McCarthyism, even though McCarthyism wasn't quite when the stakes were a bit higher in terms of global order and international, and there wasn't really, and there was multipolarity, like meaningful multipolarity, then yeah, America was a bit was repressive. They had McCarthyism. They literally witch hunted people out of positions of power and positions of government and education and everything else for being communists. The UK did it very briefly at a much smaller degree under Clement Attlee, but yeah, we still did it anyway.
Scenario
we'll see.
Where China had encircled the United States of America, and I was saying, I want to run democratically. I want to be, and I'm demanding that China intervene. I think they would do the same, if not worse, for sure. Because like I said, it's all a matter of
again, he's doing this like relativism again, because obviously it depends on what you're defending. What are you defending with this action? Well, in the case of the Britain and America, like they could say that they were defending themselves against people who were trying to produce a society that would have been objectively worse for people there. Doesn't justify the actions, doesn't justify the they were ousted, but were they jailed or executed? I don't know how many people were jailed. I know in the UK, they didn't jail them. They just removed them from their jobs and destroyed their lives. And a lot of them were innocent as well. It was very paranoid. Like, and we didn't do a fraction of what they did under with McCarthyism in the UK. But obviously doing that to defend an already authoritarian regime, I don't really know why that makes sense.
Conditions on the ground with...
yes, Attlee was the worst of it for us because it didn't last that long.
With respect to Eugene Debs, as I was talking about before, America felt threatened even at that time.
You're talking about wartime. Though.
Yeah.
This is not a fair comparison, in my opinion, because wartime is wartime. It's about survival. Britain suspended elections during wartime, right? Like
America didn't actually. They did. They even during the Civil War.
But Britain did. America wasn't in war in the same way that Britain was.
That's why I said during the Civil War.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's fair. But again, it's different. I guess you said something interesting because I was born in the Soviet Union, so we both have direct experience of socialism in various shapes and forms. You talked about, well, there's positives and there's negatives. So is there a country that's done socialism the way that you like?
I would say that
China, the least socialist one of all of them. The least practically socialist one of the lot. Yeah, that one. The one with the most billionaires and the most fucking private enterprise. Let's go. The most consumerism.
I am hypercritical of all forms of governance, including the American one. I think that's not a surprise to you guys, right? And in that same vein, I think like there is critiques to apply to all forms of governance, even socialist ones.
Yeah.
And as far as like getting closer to what I think has been relatively successful, because if ultimately the point of government is to improve the material conditions of all people to the best of your ability, it's not always going to be perfect, but when you are getting, I don't know, the poorest people, the poorest of the dispossessed masses out of a situation where they were servile to landed gentry, or they were peasants from an agrarian society, or they were dominated by the landlords, but then ultimately they were able to come into modernity and become like a powerhouse, an industrial powerhouse that is competitive with the largest superpower on the planet. I would say if that's the point.
Whoa, dude! Whoa! What a fucking skip and a hop and a jump! What? Germany came out of World War I absolutely humiliated, so wrecked, so fucked. And then they had the Weimar Republic. That was a bit shaky. But at the end of the day, they ended up becoming the dominant liberal Western democracy in the European Union. Oh, what happened after they overthrew the landlord class and gave the land to the peasants? What happened less than a decade after that little gesture? Interesting. Because there's at least 36 odd million people starved to death are going to be like, what the fuck happened to us? What are you doing? You're not even in China anymore. He's doing the thing again. He's doing the thing. It's Chinese history. Stop doing the thing.
Good governance, and I think you guys might agree with me on that. I would say China is probably the closest, and there are still plenty of failures within the Chinese system as well, plenty of issues within the Chinese system as well, but that's probably the closest, I would say, to an example that we should follow and lessons that we should learn from. This is something that I talk about quite a bit. Ironically enough, we only utilize some of the most repressive elements of Chinese governance here in the United States of America, especially in the second Trump administration, and none of the good stuff. We don't have any high-speed rail. We don't have any even development. There is seemingly nothing to look forward to in America in terms of
what did he say there?
America, especially in the second Trump administration, and none of the good stuff. We don't have any high-speed rail. We don't have any even development.
Is he talking about is China going to be your model for even development? China's entire fucking history has been one of uneven development. What the fuck are you talking about? Bro, what? Even development? Really? Are you going to... You think the average Chinese... Is this because this must be just after he came back from China? I guess he thinks the average... Really? You go in westward from the coast... That's even development to you. Are you fucking mental? What the fuck? I also just love this. It's really, he didn't even have a second thing there, did he? He said we should learn all these lessons from China as Western liberal democracies. We should learn everything from China, but we've only adopted all the repressive thing, which obviously the West hasn't done. They've adopted repressive measures, but nothing like what China's done. But it's really just high-speed rail. That's the only thing he can point to. That's the only... They interviewed him before you left. Okay. The only thing he can point to is high-speed rail. Even development is not... Sorry, China does not hold a fucking beacon for even development. Ever since 1949, ever since the first 5-year plan in China, uneven development and the rural-urban divide has been a problem. Right, like it's always been an issue. The cultural, no, not the Cultural Revolution, but the Great Leap Forward was actually in part Mao's kind of like jerk reaction to uneven development in the rural and urban society. Like there was a big controversy where the first 5-year plan massively favored the urban environment and urban development to the point that peasants were basically struggling and where they were basically struggling to feed the urban industrial machine, where the grain taxes were like 30% at some points, and they were basically forced to sell grain to the state at reduced costs. Damn. What the fuck? It's really just high-speed rail. And again, at the end of the day, right, high-speed rail is great, but in a democracy, it depends on how much the people want it. Look at polling in the UK on HS2. No one gives a fuck about HS2. It was controversial as it is, but generally most people, when they're asked about HS2, is they have no opinion. People don't really have that much of an opinion of changing your railways to high-speed rail. In countries where they do want it and where they're willing to vote in that direction, they get it. Spain has high-speed rail. France has a degree of high-speed rail. Japan has high-speed rail. Really, this is like the one thing you can get from China. It's just fast train. God. There's more to life than having a fast train, bub.
There is seemingly nothing to look forward to in America in terms of economic prosperity, in terms of overall health of society, in terms of scientific achievements. And I think a lot of younger people also feel the same way, where they feel like there's nothing to look forward to here. And I'll give you guys an example from the UK. I remember seeing this TikTok.
Knowledge is cute, but how fast are your trains?
Thanks for the $10, Dwayne. Appreciate it.
This guy that goes around and is like asking young British people, would they serve in the British military? And I am...
Scientific achievements. It's just trains. It's literally just high-speed rail. That's it. That is it.
Not even remotely nationalistic by any measure. I don't care about those sorts of things. But I think it's important to understand, like, it's a good way to see the temperature of society. And a lot of the young British people were like, no, why would I fight for England? Why would I fight for the UK when it seems like my government's not even fighting for me at all? And
see, the reason a lot of them will say that, though, is it's not so much about that we're not like China in terms of building high-speed rail, although that is a big issue in the UK.
Yeah, if only we had high-speed rail, then the British Zoomers would be wanting to fight for the problem with the UK, as has been in the case of most of Europe, is that basically America has sort of done most of the a lot of the heavy lifting when it came to percentages of GDP and their budget spent on defense, and we also just haven't had a war for a really long time. We haven't had any existential threats that we have just like let our guard down. Even our defense secretary has come and spoken about that recently, and that's why we're having to up this defense spending as well as the rest of Europe has to. Usually it's threats that get people interested in joining the military or propaganda. That's usually how you get people to really, we build high-speed rail, then we're gonna have people chomping at the bit to join the fucking Navy and shit. God.
I agree with you.
We also don't have an empire anymore, so that's another reason.
The main reason is they feel like they've been let down by mass immigration that's eroding the values of their country. And of course, you know, this is where I think people on the right are very blind to this issue that we already raised, which is wealth inequality and opportunity. Right?
I'm sure there are some people who feel that way, of course, but
well, think about this for a second. Hold on, let me just finish the point. Like
stereotype. I'm sure unfortunately in the UK that is much more of a popular issue than high-speed rail. In the UK, people are molding about immigration. Like it is like the number one issue for voters now. It's fucking horrible. You're not gonna solve that with high-speed rail. Fuck.
Typically speaking. Is it left of center people or right of center people that are going to go and fight for their country? Typically, it's going to be...
It's especially when you consider the fact that most of the people complaining about immigration don't even use trains. They live in the fucking country and they drive their little guzzlers and their little cars and they barely ever leave their fucking town and they don't see any immigrants. Like that's where Reform are getting most of their popular support from.
Right of center people because of the mindset that they have, right?
I think when push comes to shove, everybody fights for their country because that's why you have to have a draft.
In a war, but what we're talking about in this situation is will you go and serve in the armed forces? That is going to be a more right-leaning perspective. And those people, we probably fair to say know the UK pretty well. Those people are concerned about the national identity of their country. It's like, why would I fight for a country that doesn't feel like my country is the issue for them.
This is where the big point of division comes for someone like myself. You're Venezuelan originally, like your family came from Venezuela, your family came from the USSR. You guys are the most British people I've ever encountered.
I have a very British face, you are correct.
Yeah, exactly. You're British to the bone.
Yeah.
And yet, very British.
Your families also came from countries that were somewhat far away from England, right? Yeah. And I'm Turkish. I grew up in Turkey. My whole family lives in Turkey still, with some exceptions. And I would say I'm pretty assimilated to American culture. I grew up being fascinated by American culture. I grew up consuming American pop culture, as do many people all around the world. And what I always find interesting is when people focus on the newcomers to say that this is actually destroying the social fabric or social cohesion, not realizing that there are a ton of polls conducted on this stuff. I can just speak for America, especially, where by the second generation, assimilation is almost complete. And by the third one, it's like virtually impossible to distinguish in terms of performance, educational output.
Oh, God. Two fucking British people are not going to like hearing that. Fuck me. Oh, God. He just walked in. I don't think he even realizes how much of a fucking right-wing trap he walked into. The problem in the UK is that most of the radicalism and most of the social issues, whatever, as exaggerated as they are, they do exist, and they tend to come from second and third generation migrants. Not first generation. It's usually well-educated ones as well. They're more likely to be radical than working class migrants.
And job performance in general. It's just like everyone becomes American.
That's not obviously our highest crime rate is from like the black population, and they've been here for like since the 60s, right? So they've been here for multiple generations.
In the UK, though, unfortunately, so if you look at, for example, Islamist radicalization, second and third generation Muslims are much more radical than first generation.
Yeah,
so we're not. That's the issue that a lot of people in Britain are concerned about, is not everyone's assimilating the way that the three of us have done.
So here's the interesting point about that. Well, two things I want to address. First, like I said, people assimilate. And they become a part of the
some people
normal forces of society. They become a part of the culture, or they bring some aspect of their culture into British culture. You know, they change the cuisine, and people seemingly enjoy it, even if they also simultaneously go attend an EDL rally and then get a little quick curry afterwards, or a little kebab on the side. But beyond that, the reason why people are angry is always going to be because the trains are not running on time, because the NHS is...
What does he think happens in this country? What the fuck? Not even mentioning the fact that, like, apart from the rolling stock companies, like quite a lot of our rail is nationalized. We even control costs. Like, we've gotten rid of peak time in Scotland. The trains generally run on time. What the fuck is he talking about? Okay, you'll get delays that, like, sometimes if you're really unlucky, they'll go like half an hour or something. What does he think is happening to our trains? The fuck? Is this late onset autism? No, it's because it's literally the only fucking thing that people can point to China that separates it from just being any other capitalist fucking shithole with, albeit with more authoritarianism.
Improperly managed due to underfunding. That's what I believe. I think it's always an issue of underfunding, where they're not getting the same services that they once used to, and also things are becoming more and more costly. So in that anger, it's much easier for them to be guided by a right-wing, guided by the right-wing force.
Hasan's not prepared for this. I don't know why he is so in over his tiny little head to think he can talk about the UK to a couple of fucking British right-wingers. Because if these guys are clever, they're gonna know to say that the NHS was actually funded. Its funding constantly increases past inflation. It's not just a funding problem. Obviously, it needs a lot more. But the fact that the reason it needs to get funded so much farther beyond inflation is because we're an aging population. That's why the costs are going up. We're getting much older. We can't afford to have the NHS serve the same purpose that it did in 1945 without a huge shift in either taxes or something else that no government wants to impose.
To turn around and say, you're angry and you're right to be angry. And the reason...
Yeah, please get back to talking about Chinese trains. You're about to get fucking... He's about to get fucking molested on NHS spending.
The reason why you're angry, the reason why all of these things are happening is because we are importing all of these random strangers into the country who don't speak your language, who you are scared by. And that, I think, causes division, and it causes friction that makes it harder for people to integrate. And that is part of the reason why I think, especially in a place like the UK, you see a little bit more of this resilience towards full-blown integration into society.
I also think as well, Hasan, if we're being honest, it's also because...
People aren't integrating because the NHS and migrants don't use the NHS. They're young. They generally use the NHS much less than the fucking older people. The problems that people have with the NHS is not... People don't vote on the... Like, NHS is a big issue for British people, but it's for locals. It's not... Migrants are younger. And because if you're younger, you're not going to use the NHS as often. The NHS is generally, like, the money that it spends, like, the most per head on is old people, and the old people are mostly white.
We have had such huge amounts of immigration come into the country.
Huge.
That people understandably go, this pace of change is too much. And you have to think, let's go back to 2016, which was the Brexit referendum. Now, Brexit was about many things, but really it was about people...
Brexit was about banning all the European migrants and then getting in our favorite migrants, who are the ones from Asia and Africa. That's what UKIP were all about. So that Nigel Farage can win an election fear-mongering over Asian and African migrants. That's easier. You know, European migrants, that's not really enough. There's not enough fear factor in there for Nigel Farage to exploit his way into power. So he had to get rid of them so that we could bring in more Asian and African migrants, and then he could use that to become prime minister. It's a very good long-term strategy. Genius, really.
Wanting immigration to be lowered. And that was 9 or 10 years ago. Immigration hasn't been lowered. In fact, it's been ratcheted up. So people voted to lower immigration. And for instance, I voted Remain. People voted Brexit. I'm like, well, that's democracy. We get on. We're going to make the best of it. I do believe that when you ignore people's wishes at the ballot box and people explicitly vote for something and you ignore them for the best part of a decade, that does generate a lot of and understandably.
And also because these guys are fucking populist shitters, they're just going to say, well, they promising to cut immigration and they're not doing it. They're just going to, these guys think Labour and Conservative are the same party. So they're not going to address the fact that Keir Starmer has actually addressed a lot of the flaws in Tory immigration policy and meant that it's not just going to be like 5 fucking dependents or whatever for every person on a visa. So that immigrants who come actually are the like productive ones and everything like that. And so we don't have net migration of about 1 million in a year almost. But yeah, they're just going to say like the government, and that's Labour and Conservative to these guys. Fucking hell.
Yeah. I think in that same time frame, if
Ignore, did you not get Brexit? Yeah, but we got Brexit, and obviously one of the big arguments for Brexit that people used was immigration. But then the Tories, whilst also promising to cut immigration constantly since 2010, ended up presiding over the biggest immigration waves in British history. So recent history anyway.
if there was enough appetite by the government to address the financial harm that people were experiencing, the economic struggles that people were experiencing, there would still be a lot of people who say, I don't want a brown person, I don't want a black person around in my neighborhood. But ultimately, those numbers would be far smaller. And that's what I always go back to. I'm a leftist. I believe in economic improvements. And I believe that a lot of the reactionary forces actually take advantage of that instability, the economic volatility that exists, in an effort to shift the attention away to people who have the same exact interests as you and I do. Because ultimately, I don't believe that anyone is coming into the United States of America or the UK, as a matter of fact, because they want to bring about a Salafist-style Islamic caliphate in London. I know you won't agree with me on this.
It's not about whether I agree; it's about whether the facts agree with you.
I don't think that's the case.
Hold on.
I think ultimately,
let me just give
no, we're about to hear about Sharia law. Oh no.
You some facts.
The Sharia courts.
If we have a terrorist attack on a monthly basis by an Islamist, effectively, we just had 2 in the space of the last month as we're recording this. 33%, I think, of British Muslims want Sharia law in Britain, like according to polls. More than half.
What's it say? Sharia law, general public British Muslims. Again, like, you need to ask more elaborate questions about what they mean by Sharia law, because they don't vote in this direction. They ran, actually, there was like 4 or 5 Muslim independents who won elections. They didn't even fight on Sharia law. They fought on Gaza. They were like, if you care about Gaza, vote for me. This is not like a concern. I don't know why. The only Sharia we have in the UK is Sharia councils for marriage. And that's partly a problem with the state, because we haven't integrated properly like Muslim marriage into our own laws. So they go and do it in their own way. We didn't do the same thing that we did with Jewish marriages, for example. Thank you, Raging Tomato. Sorry for not reading messages. I got you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. Very generous.
I haven't seen these polls.
Well, we can put them in for people to see. More than half want to ban homosexuality. Right. So when you say people aren't coming in to introduce an
Islam, that's a problem. Yeah, sure, that's a problem. But in terms of the top 100, it's like somewhere in the bottom half. Like, they don't vote in this direction. They don't. What did the UK do with Jewish marriage? Well, we recognize it by law, which means that you can have your Jewish marriage done in your little Jewish way or whatever, but it's like it's recognized by the state, whereas Muslim marriage is not. Muslim marriage, they just kind of do their own thing. And it also means that when people want to get divorced, or if they want to deal with abuses in their marriage or whatever else, then it's harder for them to get assistance from the state, because the state doesn't have the same input. There's a whole like fucking parliamentary report on it from 2018, if you want it.
Well, some of them want to, if they're in a position to do so. We have 5 MPs who are effectively elected on a sectarian ticket, like as in, we are Muslims, vote for us because you're a Muslim.
Who would you say those MPs are?
The 5 independent MPs. They're called the Gaza MPs, or whatever way you want to call them. Right?
Are you talking about like Zara Sultana?
No. I don't know if she's one of.
No, wasn't she Labour at the time, or was she? She might have been independent, but no. The Gaza MPs are like the guys from these very like high immigration areas who basically ran their campaigns on just fucking screaming about Gaza and being like, yeah, they were. I don't know if they've done anything as MPs, but I think was it 4 or 5 of them? No, because one of them was Corbyn. The Gaza MPs, I think because a couple of them were just like random fucking nobodies. They didn't come from any of the parties. They were just like they were just like random Muslim guys. How many of them went? 5 Gaza MPs. George Galloway was one of them. Maybe Sultana was one of the 5. But where is it? The other 2? Or were they just candidates who failed?
I think one of them is called Adnan Hussein. There's 5 of them. You can.
Adnan Hussein. Who is he? Adnan Hussein, I think he was always independent. I don't think he was ever. No, he was a Labour member as well. No, so because there were some. It was in Birmingham or somewhere. There was like some random fucking. There were some constituencies where you just had these kind of first time into politics random fucking Muslims who just ran like really fucking like nasty smear campaigns or like shit show campaigns. But yeah, I didn't think any of them won though.
Yeah. We can look them up.
These are is Ayub Khan?
Mm-hmm. Right. So
I think these guys are all ex-Labour, aren't they? Let's see. Barrister, was he Labour Party? He entered politics in the backdrop of the Iraq War. Oh yeah, the people I'm thinking of didn't actually, they didn't win, they just ran. Okay. Look into Mothin Ali. Nah. Was this guy, George Galloway? You know, George Galloway didn't win a seat this election, did he? He got unseated in... It wasn't Bradford, because Bradford was his older one. Where the fuck? I can't remember. Was he in any party before Labour? This guy. Oh yeah, wait. He was a Liberal Democrat, and Rochdale, yeah. Oh, because in Rochdale he ran that campaign about speaking for Gaza to the, but he made pamphlets for the Muslim families saying that he was gonna save Gaza or whatever. And then he also sent pamphlets around to the white families saying that he was going to deal with gender ideology and grooming gangs. What a fucking Russian operative cunt. God damn it. All right. I think this is maybe the one. Is he the one who didn't? I don't think this guy was in party politics before 2024. He's the one. Okay. Cool.
I think it should be said that the overwhelming majority of British Muslims don't want Sharia law. But if 33% of them do, you can see why a lot of people who don't want Sharia law might be concerned about that, right?
Sure. I don't. Yeah. I don't know what. I haven't seen these polls, and I also don't know what British Muslims, or the 33% that are saying they want Sharia law, like what they're talking about.
Yeah.
If you want smart...
Okay, that's a reasonable save. Celtic girl in chat. Why does this person keep laughing for no reason when he's listening to Hasan, even when Hasan is saying something like, we went to Hong Kong? Because he was surprised at the fucking security shit that went, the security measures that were in place when he had to wait before going to the different, and he said that it should be one country, one system. Which system adopts which? Do you think he means by that? It's a callback to him downplaying the government crackdown in Hong Kong. Anyway.
Love the Brad versus Everyone podcast, hosted by Brad
Whatever,
and
it's
the
big,
TikTok
big.
influencer. Triggernometry's younger Americans is too scared or too biased to cover. One on Apple Podcasts.
There's plenty of right-wing forces in the country that also want to ban homosexuality or trans people in general, right?
No,
Like
no one wants to ban trans people in Britain. No.
Okay, well, that's not what I have seen so far, but maybe I'm wrong on this.
Oh, God.
But I feel like there's a lot of this is a point of contention for you guys as well. But it's like when you want to ban trans people altogether, when you want to remove access to medication for trans people.
The TERF focus is mostly on women's spaces. That's what they fucking screech about in the UK. But okay.
To transition and conform their own gender identity, you don't start off by saying we want to altogether ban trans people. You start off by trying to find the most successful approach.
Certainly don't want them having healthcare, but I don't know which political party right now is running on that. Are Reform trying to do that? I know for youths that's been a whole thing. Like for 16 and under, no, under 16s. Yeah, for under 16s they all but got rid of puberty blockers and affirming care, apart from for research purposes. For adults, I don't know. I don't think we have the same kind of Republican onslaught on trans rights that we have in the UK. In the UK, it's much more to do with Equalities Act and women's spaces. That's like the big fucking fight that we're having here right now with the TERFs.
That the broadest majority of the masses would be in tune with, would be in agreement with, and then you slowly but surely expand on it.
Wouldn't that be like me saying, well, you say you want socialism, but actually you're a communist because you just want to edge your way towards communism step by step.
Edge. I mean,
that seems like an unfair way of looking at it.
No, my retort to that would be that while I don't call myself a communist, I don't have an issue with an end goal of communism. I don't think it's like I just think that it's probably not likely to happen, a stateless, moneyless, borderless society. But moving towards that end goal, I don't have any real...
You'd like communism in America?
I think that communism would be most likely an international thing. It'd be like the Star Trek universe. And it feels especially at this point, it feels far too utopian to achieve.
Why going, when you talk about the Star Trek universe, like find anyone who doesn't want the Star Trek universe. It's like, it's such a cop-out. Like, everyone wants the Star Trek universe. Everyone wants robots to do everything while we sit under fucking trees and yap about, like, history or fucking philosophy or whatever. Like, come on.
So while I think that
there was the whole Tavistock thing, but Tavistock was over youths, wasn't it? Tavistock wasn't over adults. Was it?
concept in and of itself is not one that I disagree with, and I don't think you would either. Don't you think it would be nicer?
I grew up in a communist country. I very strongly disagree with the concept of communism.
The USSR
he doesn't really know what Hasan's saying. Hasan's using a cop-out by just appealing to some kind of like utopia that's never, that communism has certainly never in practice brought us any closer to. Yeah, he's not really addressing what's going on there. But I get Hasan hasn't really offered much substance on how he wants Western countries to adopt socialistic practices, though. He keeps on doing this thing with the shape-shifting, where he keeps on advocating things that you can do in capitalist liberal democracies, like unionization, even high-speed rail. Like Spain does high-speed rail. Fuck.
As you know as well, trying to implement communism. They never actually were able to successfully implement communism.
Yeah.
How do you mean?
Well, it wasn't a borderless, moneyless, classless society, right?
That was
it
never the goal of communism. It was never to be a borderless, moneyless society.
No, that is what communism is.
Well, that's not how the communists in Russia defined it.
Well,
there was a big debate within communism quite early on, which was about, are we pursuing a global state of communism?
Trotsky versus Stalin.
No, Hasan's right here. The Soviets nor the Chinese they didn't think that they had ushered in communism. They thought they had ushered in socialism, which was the step towards, and eventually that socialism would evolve into communism. That's what. No, these guys are, I think Hasan's right on that one. It was socialism in one country. It wasn't communism in one country.
I'm very familiar.
Right, but for our audience, this might be worth explaining.
Yeah.
Some of them they basically recognize the only way you might ever get to a communist society is if everyone in the world gets it. Otherwise, there will always be a capitalist system to which people would be keen to defect. Or, this is the Stalin option that they ended up going for, is you pursue communism within the realm of one country. And in order to do that, they took the wealth away from people who had it. They tried to distribute it to everybody else. They tried to create a state of equality, uplift the poor, as you were talking about. And actually, if you take those measures alone, they were very successful at it. Mm-hmm. The only problem is they ended up putting millions of people in camps in order to do that, creating a tyrannical regime with a secret police that murdered people. And that is the reason communism, in my opinion, doesn't work, is because in order to achieve that goal of equality, and basically you're making everybody equally poor as the end result, you actually have to use a lot of force, right? So that was communism.
Shuffling his head.
What we had in the USSR.
Well, the end goal was never successfully achieved in the USSR in terms of establishing what I'm talking about, though. And that's why I'm saying it's important to understand and recognize the failures of this implementation in the aftermath of a socialist revolution.
I don't know whose fault it is, because can one of these guys just be like, what would you have done differently? Would that be a good question to ask?
And choose not to repeat those mistakes.
So how would you do it differently?
Well, that's the reason why I pointed to China. China is run by the Communist Party of China. It bills itself as communist. China is not a communist country. Would you say China is a communist country?
It's a mixed country. It has some elements of communism, but it's also got a lot of capitalism going on.
Yeah,
right?
So it's a mixed market economy is what you're saying, right? But so is the United States of America, if you look at it from that perspective, because America also has some semblance of social safety nets. The UK also has some social safety nets.
That's not an element of communism, you fucking shape-shifting little slug. God damn it, stop doing that. Why does he do that? Why does he keep doing it? Why does he keep doing the thing? Socialism, which is always supposed to be about relationships of production. It's about who owns the means in production and who doesn't. That's it. Fuck. Why are we talking about social safety nets? That's taxes. Fuck me. God damn it. It's the thing. He's doing the thing. He's doing the thing. He doesn't... Does he ever actually explain where the capitalist compatible stuff ends and the socialist stuff begins? Where?
Some state-run enterprises, especially pre-Margaret Thatcher, I would say, versus private enterprises as well. Venezuela at its peak, I think, had more privatization and more private enterprise in its economy than France did, as a matter of fact. I believe there was like a report around 2012, maybe, where they were talking about how like Venezuela is not socialist. So when these sorts of countries, and you're not wrong, it's a mixture of both, right? It exists. Social safety net exists. Some extrapolation initiatives exist. Like when you think about Norway, for example, the entirety of the extraction industry in Norway is actually nationalized from the forestry all the way down to the oil and gas industry. But then there's also the private market as well, private enterprise as well. So as far as that goes, I wouldn't say that China is a communist, and neither would you, but it's run by a communist party. And
is it, the term should be socialist then? Can I just, fuck me, simple is the best, right? Could Hasan ever explain what the difference is between socialism and social democracy? Because you can have private markets in China or whatever. You can have billionaires in China. You can have Gucci stores, whatever the fuck else. You can have like consumerism and everything and all the rest of it. When does it stop becoming social democracy and just become socialism? Because the differences that I can see very obviously between China and Western countries is not so much in the economic structure, although that obviously is there with the state's involvement, but it would be like repressive measures, like one-party rule and suppression of free speech and banning books about your country's own history and opening the archives and closing them really fucking quickly because they make you look bad. Re-education camps. Hey,
so far, they have seen a pretty successful, pretty robust level of growth and development overall. So they have analyzed.
That's your goal, growth and development. I'm sorry, growth and development. Like that, because now I notice this with Teuton as well. It's so weird. Every time I hear these people talk about the successes of China, they start talking like capitalists. They start talking about things that capitalists value. Like, yeah, they achieved a lot of growth and they achieved a lot of economic development, and they have they built loads of roads and they built loads of cities. And wait, that's just what else? What other parts of the world do growth and develop? That's the capitalist world does that. It's like on the one hand, I'm a revolutionary socialist. I want radical change. I want radical out of the box solutions to all these problems in the world. Also, the thing I'm advocating for is basically the same as everywhere else. Like, don't worry about it. Again, it's the thing. It's the fucking thing. It's the, you start with the, I'm a radical. I'm diametrically opposed. This is a huge out of the box, never tried before project that we're going to embark on to radically reimagine the world. And they're like, okay, let's talk about China. Oh yeah, but yeah, don't they, that's all very similar to what we do in Scandinavia. And America's mixed in some ways. Like, what are you doing?
The failures of previous communist and socialist formations, and they have responded to it in their own way.
The challenge is, Hasan, when you centralize power and you give into exactly...
He doesn't really sound like he's trying to sell an ideology here. It doesn't really sound like he's trying to sell any radical solutions or policies. He just sounds like he's trying to survive the conversation. Like,
practically all the power to the government.
So strange.
What happens with that is you're far more likely to have corruption, you're far more likely to have abuse of power, and inevitably what happens is that the government can't do everything. There are things that are far better done by private practice than done by state control. So if you
agree with that. Would you also agree that there are things that are far better done in the hands of the government, or at least with like heavy market regulation and intervention?
I completely agree.
Because like healthcare, I think is a great.
There's no capitalist economy like in the apart from maybe like warlord-run fail states that don't have a government overseeing some of the affairs. I think Milton Friedman, he said that there were three things that he would never privatize, and one was the army. What were the other two? Was it like the postal service or some shit? There's only three things, but obviously there's a lot of things that, even in America, that are not privatized. But,
example of this, where like it's an inelastic demand good and service, right? Yeah. If you don't have healthcare, you die. So you will pay whatever price you have to pay for healthcare. And therefore, I think the American system that is the most maximalist, most capitalist, most like free enterprise system has been an abject failure in terms of
the judicial system. What was it? Police, military, and the judicial system. Yeah.
Delivering good results. And what I mean by that is healthcare as a whole is supposed to improve people's living standards and also make sure that everyone is getting the best quality care possible, right? And in the United States of America, we don't have that. We do have nicer hospitals that resemble hotels as opposed to like... I'll be honest
with you, it'd be difficult not to have a nicer hospital than the UK, mate.
Yeah, no, but I understand. Right. I'm from Turkey. I've seen the Turkish public hospitals, but I would rather have I would rather try to focus on the diminished quality of service and try to improve that in a socialized system than to altogether limit healthcare at the point of being able to pay for it in the way that we have in the United States of America. And I think this is a major issue with America in general, is that we are so invested in improving our GDP. We're so invested in leaning into the forces of capital that in this sector and in many others, corruption still thrives. We have it in the form of corporate consolidation.
Who are you debating? Oh, debate's been postponed, unfortunately. That means I do get prep time, though, which is nice. Fuck, I was hoping to do it today. Shit. It's been postponed until tomorrow. Sorry, guys. The guy is unwell. So, hope he feels better. Debate postponed until tomorrow. RIP. Boom.
Here in the United States of America, because in the absence of any sort of government intervention, trust busting, and heavy regulatory intervention, all corporations end up trying to seize one another and become a force, a monopolistic force, and if not, an oligopoly, right? And many sectors have seen this. And when you become an oligopoly, you can diminish the quality of service that you're offering slowly but surely, because there's no market competition that exists any longer. So I guess the way I look at it is, in terms of corruption, you're right. There is a tendency, if the government is all-powerful, even though the governments are always all-powerful, there is a tendency in more centralized governance that if someone wants to be a ruthless autocrat, they can do so. And the people don't always have the capacity to rise up against that. But I would say that in the United States of America, for example, we also experience a similar dynamic. We just don't see it in the same way, because it's not the most direct form of authoritarianism, where a lot of people think, well, as long as I can eat a Big Mac, as long as I can watch TV, as long as I can consume porn and gamble on the...
As long as I can read books that criticize my own state, as long as I don't have to go into a re-education camp, as long as I have free speech. Yeah, these things are nice. Yeah, they're good. They're cute.
Unregulated cryptocurrency market or
And
gambling.
when someone comes down on those rights, even a little bit, like with the fucking Republicans trying to fuck with books in schools and universities, or with Trump going after people with, what's the thing called? What is the status that Mahmoud Khalil had with green card? Yeah, green cards. There's another phrase for it. When people have these and they get it threatened, then people go fucking mental over it, because they should. Yeah, because we treasure these things.
My modest income away, what remains after I give the rest to my landlord, then things are probably fine. And I think we dull our sensibilities in that regard. And I think it's a different form, it's a different mechanism of control that makes you think that you are actually an active participant in this.
I mean, I think that's quite a stretch, Hasan, with all respect, because the difference between, we talked about some societies that have attempted to pursue communism, China, the Soviet Union.
Oh, the guy that I'm talking to debated Destiny. He's got a debate on his channel. I can use it. I can use that for prep. I can watch him. I haven't actually, because this guy, I couldn't find videos of him doing his take because he's American. Yeah, I'll watch that after. Cool.
Venezuela, etc. Right? The difference between those countries is not that they can't.
Who is it? He's not a very well-known guy. His name is Misfit Patriot. The Misfit Patriot. I don't know if I'll get his points from this debate, but I will get his style, because it's a MAGA debate that he's having with Destiny here. Okay.
The Big Mac, the difference is that if they criticize the government in Russia today...
Wait, you guys know who that is? I don't know who this is. I haven't seen him before.
But of course, in the Soviet Union previously, you're going to get killed, right? In America, that's not what happens. Right? In America, you don't get...
We don't know yet. We don't know where we're going to go yet.
I mean, Hasan, to be fair, you're a very successful...
I agree with you.
You in China or in the Soviet Union would be killed if you were critical of that regime.
I would definitely be jailed.
You'd definitely be jailed. So that's the difference between these countries and America. It's not a Big Mac, it's freedom.
No, so I love that you brought that up, because I agree with that. I'm from Turkey, a country that has never had the First Amendment or freedom of speech. And ironically enough, the current regime, the person in charge of the current regime, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, was jailed in the past for a poem that he wrote for incitement, right? He read a poem about Atatürk, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and he was jailed. And now he's one of the most ruthless jailers of the press in the country.
Right.
Now, so I come from that background. I can't go back to Turkey, for example,
right.
For these reasons. I've written about Turkey extensively. And, let's just say the administration is not super fond of me in my perspective. Having said that, that is the reason why I want the First Amendment to remain in the United States of America, even though, as I brought up earlier, there have been instances throughout American history where the First Amendment has been actively violated or threatened. There are still contemporary examples of violations of the First Amendment.
Actively.
One example I will use is the anti-boycott, divestment, and sanctions laws that exist in the United States of America. Famously was Bernie Sanders and Dianne Feinstein, rest in peace, who actively called it out. Two prominent Jewish politicians in the country. These are laws directly written by AIPAC that dictate that if you want to become a school teacher in the state of Texas, for example, you have to sign a loyalty pledge to ensure that you never protest against the state of Israel. It's ridiculous, right? And it's a direct violation of the First Amendment. So there are there is encroachment towards the First Amendment.
That will always happen because people will always contest it. But the point I'm making to you is when you compare China and the Soviet Union and Venezuela to America, that is not an accurate comparison.
It's not an accurate comparison.
Yeah,
but
I'm going to make it anyway. Watch me go.
You recall earlier I just said, I'm worried that we here in the United States of America are now moving in that direction in terms of social repression, in terms of political repression. And this is something that I very much fear. And I think the entry point to this is usually around Israel and what people decry as anti-Semitism. But that's not where it's going to end. If you look at the Trump administration's the active initiatives the administration is taking, yesterday, my friend Kat Abugzaleh, who used to be a reporter who's now running in Illinois for Congress, was indicted. She was indicted because she participated in the protest against ICE outside of an ICE facility. And there are videos of her getting slammed.
So did they film this before he went to China? So they filmed this before he went and made excuses for the cops shuffling through his phone to make sure that he wasn't making fun of Mao, dude.
Ground in the concrete, but this militarized, masked federal police force, right? Not only did they beat her up, which was already ridiculous to begin with, but then they also chose to indict her. There are examples of students writing for their student newspaper and getting kidnapped and thrown into a immigrant detention facility. Whether it be Mahmoud Khalil, who still has an ongoing legal case for being a student activist, a student protester, and having a green card while doing it.
We have the same thing in our country in different ways. I hear you. Sorry, the reason I'm interrupting you is we've moved sideways from the topic. So remember where we started this conversation, right? So just to address your point.
The repression didn't start in China by everybody being like, all right, it's over, we're throwing you in jail. It builds up to it is what I mean. And it's entirely dependent on the starting point. Because if you were looking at China, if you're looking at the Chinese Civil War, post-World War II, 30 million Chinese people have been slaughtered ruthlessly by the Japanese imperialists. Like, that's a very different material.
Most historical estimates place Chinese deaths in World War II at 10 to 20 million. He didn't accidentally use the Great Leap Forward numbers, did he? Oh, no.
Very different set of material circumstances for the end of that civil war and to develop governance. Similar to the
I'm just
USSR.
trying to bring you back to the central argument.
And also the fact that Chairman Mao actually used a period of freedom of expression, the 100 Flowers campaign, as a way to root out people who were criticizing the state and criticizing his rule and his decisions.
Discussion we're having. Francis made the point that when the government is in a position to be authoritarian, where it seems to inevitably end up in every communist country in the history of the world, right? That is a situation which inevitably then leads to levels of repression of the kind that you will not see in America for 100 years. I take your point about individual protesters or individual people who've made statements about a highly controversial issue today. We have the same thing in our country where people are being sent to prison for tweets that they've done, right?
People don't get sent to prison for tweets. They don't get sent to prison for tweets. There is a problem where cops will have a word with people for what's called non-crimes, although I think they're going to stop doing that now. If you do end up going to jail for like a social media post, it'll be because there was incitement in those posts. So there were people with Facebook. So like the example of someone who got jailed for the crime was stirring up hatred. He did social media posts, but they were social media posts of him telling people to go and kill all the Muslims and for distributing copies of a terrorist manual. So, okay. I feel like that would pass just about any even the Brandenburg test, but okay.
Left and right. We've got Palestine Action on the left. We've got right-wing people criticizing immigration. So I agree with you. The direction of travel in the West in terms of freedom of expression is not good. And I've made that point in my book and elsewhere. But that is not the same as what the point we're trying to make, which is the system of government you are open to, based on our discussion today at least, inevitably leads to authoritarianism, which inevitably leads to repression on a scale that a Western country won't imagine. Isn't that's the reason that a lot of people are very worried about people like you who say they're open to communism.
We all know smartphones are essential.
Fucking hell, they got so many ads.
But they've also
because
Come on,
slash
get me
trigonometry
through this.
The reason
and use our code Trigonometry for $20 off a protective case with your phone.
here, I'll try to put a nice button on it. Okay. The reason why the United States of America and countries that are under the security apparatus, the global security umbrella of the United States of America, have had much more success.
These countries are only authoritarian because of the national security threats. What threats is China currently? Whatever.
With liberal democracy, as opposed to all these other countries that are not under the immediate security umbrella, is because it's been the domineering force around the globe, especially after the end of the Cold War, but even during the Cold War, it was a dominant force on the planet.
Sure.
When you are the dominant force, you get to have these freedoms. Your people get to have these freedoms. Your people get to say whatever they want because they're not a threat, right?
Sounds like okay, I joined that force. Damn, so all we need to do is stop being adversaries of these countries and we can get more freedoms, like civil liberties. What? Apparently China doesn't even need to change all that much. Maybe they'll just slow down on their high-speed rail program.
Be more of a threat in the respective nation that I'm in if they don't have that same level of security. And that is the reason why I'm very fearful, because as America's power on the global stage is waning, we are going to see more direct authoritarianism coming from Western nations as liberalism decays, as it did in the 20s and the 30s. And what came after that was a wave of fascism. Now, fascism at that time was seen as a revolution.
Oh, yes. Give us some rise of fascism lessons. Let's go. He's going to say something really fucking stupid, isn't he? At least. Oh, no.
Thing. It was seen as a new thing. In many instances, fascists were actually fashioning themselves as though they were like a different kind of socialist, even though they were mostly killing socialists and had their beef with socialists, and then they were able to align with liberals eventually and become dominant.
There it is. They aligned with liberals eventually. Excuse me, when? What? Fuck me. Do I need to do Hitler's speech after the Reichstag fire? I can't just do the same one about the KPD being all excitable and giddy about the Nazis coming in because it was going to inevitably bring up about the German October Revolution. Fuck me, man. Why does he do this? Are they gonna realize that he's done it? Fuck's sake. Whoa. Was Italy or Japan liberal or democratic at all before fascism? I think they were. I think Japan was maybe liberal leaning. I can't remember though. I don't know. But obviously, the Axis, like these were fascist regimes. They were fascist leaders. Like fucking, where is it? Whereas the KPD were accelerationists. They were literally accelerationists. Not even using that term loosely. Japan had a Weimar moment. Okay. Where was the fire in the Hitler speech after the Reichstag fire? There was a speech that he gave where it wasn't just socialists he was going to take his wrath out on. It was also the Social Democrats, because they hated both of them and they murdered both of them and they kidnapped both of them at the same time. Like was the KPD always accelerationists? I don't think so. I don't know if they always were. Where's the speech from the Reichstag fire? Maybe somewhere around here? Oh yeah, here. Was it here? Yeah, here. Hitler turned to the assembled company. I now saw that his face was flaming red with excitement and from the heat that was gathering in the copula. He shouted as if he wanted to burst in an unrestrained way such as I had not previously experienced with him. There will be no more mercy now. Anyone who stands in our way will be butchered. The German people won't have any understanding for leniency. Every communist functionary will be shot where he is found. The communist deputies must be hanged this very night. Everybody in league with the communists is to be arrested. Against the Social Democrats and the Reichsbanner, this was the militant wing of the SPD, 2, there will be no mercy. Like, he was against both of them. They did not align with liberals. Fucking hell.
Forces, and I think a different kind of socialists, even though they were mostly killing socialists and had their beef with socialists, and then they were able to align with liberals eventually and become the domineering authoritarian force.
Oh, I know what he's referring to. He's referring to that other time. See what? This is a less well-known part. This one they won't teach you in high school, baby. was when the Soviets were at war. They declared war with the Nazi Party, with the Third Reich. But then Britain, at the same time, was kind of like a little bit wary, and they were trying to expand their own little territory. So what they did was they signed this agreement with the Nazis, with Hitler, and they basically made a pact to divide the western half of the continent so that the Brits would take some parts and then the Germans would take some other parts, and then they would kind of have a ceasefire line, and they would engage in mutually beneficial trade, so that the Brits were effectively supplying the Nazi war machine so they could go and fight the Soviets. And then when they were afraid that the Nazis might come and attack the Brits, then they decided to increase their shipments of economic and raw material support to the Nazis, because they thought, well, these guys are like fascists, they like stuff, we'll give them stuff. That's what happened there. Yeah, it was crazy. I forgot about though. That's why Hasan's doing this interview.
And I think you guys wouldn't disagree with me that, like, Italy's Mussolini and Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany were ruthless fascist forms of governance where there was unimaginable repression. My fear is that is where capitalism inevitably leads.
Why?
If left unaddressed, because capitalism is always going to
You realize that most capitalist countries fought against this, though. They fought against, like, it was, remember, World War II starts in 1939. From then on, you've got Brits, French, eventually later on the Americans fighting in this war against the Nazis. The Soviets don't get involved until the Nazis attack them. They didn't get involved until the Nazis invaded them. Fuck.
deteriorate. It's slowly going to improve material conditions as opposed to feudalism. It's a far better system, for sure. It's far better than monarchies, right? I agree. But there will come a point where it outlives its usefulness, and those who own the capital, the owners of capital, will have to make a decision. There's too much instability. There's too much chaos. We need to restore order. And if they can't do that through liberal democracy, at least historically, especially when there is a counterbalance revolutionary socialism out there that they are genuinely fearful of, work stoppages happening all around, and the flows of capital being disrupted, and profit margins are threatened, they end up finding fascism to be that domineering force that restores the law and order, so that people are still working in the factories, and any kind of dissent is directly and indirectly suppressed.
I love how he's just basically trying to relive. It's not just that he's kind of just acting like this stupid fucking history repeats itself nonsense, but also it's like he's doing it, but for a time in history that he's kind of made up half of the facts about. Like, he's made up half of the facts about the 1920s, and he's just like reinventing it now today and be like, yeah, this is the problem in America. Like, the workers in the factories are withholding their labor, and there's a great rise in communist consciousness, and it's fear, making the liberal order grow in fear of what might happen next. So they're going to align with the rising fascists, so that he's just invented, like, he's taking an invented history from the 20s and then just applying it to today, and not even acknowledging, obviously, that even if the history he was talking about is accurate, he's not even like customizing it to change it to today. He's just like, well, factory workers going on strike. Really, this is like the big communist threat in Western liberal democracies today. What the fuck?
And I fear that is where we're moving in the United States of America, as America's global superpower status is threatened by the rise of China.
So your thesis is that as country, if a different country was dominant, it was a global hegemon, they would have more freedom for their citizens.
Yeah.
So you think the Chinese Communist Party would allow criticism of them if they were the dominant country in the West?
I think with respect to where they were in terms of, like, I mean, the most maximalist position is the Cultural Revolution, right? Like, if you look at the Cultural Revolution versus where China is now in terms of dissent, it's in comparison to the United States of America. Yes, there's still heavy control over that sort of stuff. There's a lot of surveillance. Having said that, it has become far more tolerant as material conditions have improved. And that's my main thesis, is that countries, regardless of their individual...
Is that true? They opened their archives in the 90s and then they closed them again really quickly. I'm pretty sure it's still the case in China that even though material conditions have improved, living standards, I don't know why you can't just say living standards. I know that, like, basically Hasan's and a lot of these, like, Marxist-Leninists do this thing where they will just substitute everyday language with their own words to make themselves feel like they're onto some fucking intellectual planes that other people don't have access to. Material conditions just means living standards. That's just all it means. Unless you want to be proper orthodox Marxist about material conditions, you'd be using it to talk about labor and class relations to capital. But he's obviously not talking about that for China, because it's not like worker ownership of the means of production has drastically improved recently in China. But China's problem right now is not like they're not faced by surrounding security threats. It's not like anyone's threatening to invade China. They've got their military, they've got their growing economy. If anything, they're the ones who are threatening other countries with the South China Sea and the 9-dash line. But have you really had that massive change in free? I'm pretty sure like the problem with China is not the security threats. It's the fact that this was a country that was completely, and this is me doing a steel man for China, is that China was united from a bunch of fragmented, interwarring regions that had been cut apart for a long time before 1949. And Mao somehow managed to unite this whole country initially fairly quickly, and then also managed to take this economy. Remember, people say that Russia was the most backward country in Europe. It was more backward than any other country in Europe with industrialization. China was even more backward than Russia, like a lot more backward, like far less industrial output, far less average standards of living, like in every possible way. It was even far lower literacy. It was already way behind. And they somehow took that situation and managed to carry out land reform and the first 5-year plan and all these they took it into becoming an industrial powerhouse effectively. But that initial industrialization phase happened fairly quickly and fairly smoothly for the first few years. Like they managed to redistribute all the land to the peasants in the first 2 years, where this landed gentry class that had dominated Chinese society for like 2,000 years was pretty much destroyed in 2 years. And then every peasant more or less was a landowner with a land deed and a paper title to the land. And not to mention the urban development in the cities happened really fast as well. And they had some help from the Soviets, but it wasn't much help. Most of it was internally funded. And the problem now is that as part of their national stability as a country, part of China's social cohesion that they very desperately need for such a big country, right, for such a diverse country, is a national story. And because their national story under Mao became so mystified and so dependent on censorship and lying effectively, that going back on it would just be such a massive like national reckoning that they probably couldn't deal with it, right? Like imagine, it seems easy for us to say, all right, for the CCP next meeting, let's just come to terms with the Great Leap Forward. Stop calling it the 3 years of struggle or whatever the fuck. Like this was a man-made famine. It was, most of the party opposed the policies that Mao put into place that actually made it happen. It was a ridiculous fucking campaign. Like he had just because he was a good general does not mean that he was also going to be a good like head of state for building up the rural and urban economy at the same time, at the same pace. Like it seems easy to say that, but looking at them, the amount of shit that they would have to deal with socially if they actually started to come clean, even just about that, it's like that would cause a huge schism in Chinese society. And imagine going to all these like rural families or descendants of people who died in the famine and just being like, oh yeah, so here's what actually happened. Here's Mao censoring all the information. Here's the fact that, he knew. Oh God, wait, it wasn't just the weather. It's almost like weather conditions in one part of the country leading to a nationwide famine, the first famine that actually spread across the entire country. Really, that was actually policy. Oh shit. Like that would cause huge fucking problems. And that's maybe one of the like think about America as well, right? America had one civil war, lasted about, I think their civil war was what, five years? Was it longer than that? Yeah, 4 years. Just over 4 years. America has that one civil war, and the losers are still not over it. And that war happened like almost 100 years before Mao even came to power. The losers still haven't gotten over it. There's still a problem. People still fly that fucking flag in the South. And America, ever since the Civil War, has had a pretty smooth domestic history, haven't they? Imagine what it would take for China to reckon with their past. Like, that'd be fucking crazy. Yeah, it would. it's a long ways away. That's all I'm saying. Fuck. But obviously Hasan can't say any of that because it's acknowledging that Mao was a fucking retard when he was in power, but okay.
Forms of governance, as long as they are advancing the material needs of the broadest subsect of the masses, will and become like a domineering force on their own and have full sovereignty and full autonomy, they will inevitably become more tolerant to this kind of freedom, because this is
Like,
the
that's the thing,
most.
like, he's so stupid. China does not lack sovereignty and autonomy. China is, how can China be at one point the return of multipolarity, the big challenge to the United States, the big fucking powerhouse that's able to take part in all these massive scientific achievements, whatever the fuck they are, and to have high-speed rail, and to like put the US to shame in terms of their even development, or the fuck else he was talking about. But also, if only the West would allow them sovereignty, then they'll have more internal freedoms. The thing that the Chinese regime fears is people knowing the truth about their past, not American propaganda.
Successful way, I think, of making sure that the masses feel satisfied.
You're blackpilling me about Israelis and Palestinians ever reconciling with the last 100 years. Well, maybe I need to, because I tend to be very careful about coming up with original quips about politics and stuff like that, because as you know, it's a broad subject. But it seems that domestic events can leave open wounds in societies for over 100 years, like the Civil War. But international conflicts, they don't seem to have the same impact, really. Again, how long was it after World War II when Israel was in diplomatic relations with West Germany? It's like 7 years. After the Holocaust. My guess is that reconciliation for Israel-Palestine is going to be two neighbors that hate each other. Like, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be two unfriendly neighbors. There'll probably still be border skirmishes. But, I mean, Vietnam and the US are chill today as well, yeah.
Civil liberties is the most successful way that I think neoliberalism has become a hegemonic power beyond the endless militarism and whatnot. I think that is the reason why people feel the way that they do in the United States of America, in spite of all of the alarm bells that are ringing about how economic devastation is imminent, seemingly, or there's so much poverty and so much instability, and people still go, well, at least I got some freedoms, right? As opposed to not having those freedoms elsewhere. So that's my main thesis, is that if they improve material conditions, they have to inevitably allow more civil liberties, more social liberties.
So it's interesting what you've been saying about America, and that, you know, it's losing its power on the global stage. That is then reflected in more and more, shall we say, in bad
fucking thesis. It's just he's like, bro, he is such a fucking sly. He's just saying that the West should leave China alone, and then China will work out its internal problems afterwards. It's so fucking stupid, really. Really, then you're going to come to terms with the fact that your national hero, your fucking deified national hero, actually was quite responsible and very aware of the famine when it was happening. The world's the biggest ever. Fuck me, dude.
It's chaos in the actual society itself. And we've kind of seen that in a way with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, with Luigi Mangione. I found some of your comments really interesting about Luigi, and I'd love to talk to you about them. So you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, push back on me if I'm wrong, that
Luigi.
you think that he's innocent and unfairly maligned. How did you come to that position, if I'm correct?
I mean, that's a meme for the most part. But,
okay.
But
what does it mean? It's a meme.
Okay.
We're like,
the notion,
the
notion that
What's a meme means I support the fuck out of it, and my community supports the fuck out of it, but also I'm too much of a coward to own my position in front of these fine colonial gentlemen. Let's do it.
is innocent until proven guilty, or that he wasn't there. It's like a common thing that people do on TikTok and elsewhere as well. But
really, so if I say that Israel's innocent until proven guilty because there hasn't been a fucking ICJ ruling on the genocide yet, the trial's not over. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that was acceptable. Innocent and unfairly maligned.
He's innocent.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he's the one that actually did it or not. We'll see once the court case finalizes.
But is he? Sorry, I may not understand what meme means in this context. Like, I guess what I'm asking is, when you say he's unfairly maligned, do you believe that or not? That's what I'm asking.
Well, as far as unfairly maligned, It depends on where the quote is coming from, because I could be talking about like being perp walked or getting hit with a terrorism charge, which was actually taken off recently because the New York courts also found that it was overextended to this case. I think there was a lot of panic around his actions, allegedly. And that is probably what I was talking about if you're talking about that. But as far as like, oh, Luigi's innocent, it's just like a thing people say. As far as innocent,
Why do they say it?
I think that is actually the more interesting conversation.
Okay.
yeah.
The reason that, and I had a conversation with Ross Douthat about this on the New York Times, where he brought this up on numerous occasions. I think that people are experiencing tremendous anger and discontent. And one of the most visible aspects of that, one of the visible aspects of a system of healthcare that should not be privatized, or should, at the very least, even if it's privatized, work to make sure that every single person is getting the adequate care that they need, otherwise they die, it has created this environment of tremendous anger. It has almost virtually universalized the pain. Every single American knows at least one immediate or distant relative that has suffered through chemotherapy as they have to hunt down their insurance provider to make sure that the thing that they were paying for years and years, the premiums, the costly premiums that they were paying into, actually end up helping them cover the cost of this life-saving quality care that they desperately need to survive. And I think a lot of Americans have so much discontent for that experience that they have seen personally, that their immediate reaction, before they even found out who had done the shooting, but their immediate reaction to who the victim was met with a response that shocked me, as well as I think many other people. What I mean by this, America's very draconian. They're very black and white. It's like you do a crime, you get punished, and a lot worse than you would get punished elsewhere, right? We talk.
No, I'm not doing a debate on jailing for tweets. It's a very open and shut question. If your speech is incitement, you should get jailed. If it's not, it shouldn't. Done. Boom.
Talk about, how Norway is much more understanding and much more rehabilitative in their prison structure because they're pussies. We throw you in jail and we torture you.
You have the death penalty.
Yeah, we have the death penalty, all this
some
stuff.
states, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, and America's broadly, like American culture is broadly very receptive to that. We're fairly rugged in our approach to crime and punishment. And in spite of that, because of how much harm the private healthcare sector has done to so many different people in this country, I think they saw it as like, okay, well, this guy is the faceless placeholder for the person, for the system that actually killed my grandparents. That's the way they saw it.
I get the anger,
which I don't think is healthy, for the record.
Okay. Well, this is what I'm getting to, is like, I understand anger. And by the way, I don't want to wade into the debate about American healthcare. I don't
deny it happens for non-incitement in the UK a lot of the time. Just post in Discord. If you have a story of someone who's in jail, serving a fucking prison sentence for tweets, you can show me. I'll probably oppose it.
Know a lot about it. I understand there's some really bad situations for people. People should also know that in the UK, there's also lots of people who are dying without care because they're waiting for an operation for a year and a half, or they're waiting 2 months for a scan. Yes. But let's not get into that.
No, but the NHS is, you're right. The NHS has had significant austerity measures implemented to it.
The NHS budget keeps growing every year, but it doesn't matter.
Because the population's growing.
Let's not get into it. What I'm saying is, I understand people's anger. What I don't understand is why that would make Luigi Mangione, who allegedly killed this guy, innocent. Why? Because that's where we started, right?
Yeah,
why do people say he's innocent?
The way people see it, and I'm not subscribing to this notion, but the way that I think people see it is, are you familiar with the concept of social murder?
No.
Engels wrote about this. He said that like the systematized death and destruction of the masses is oftentimes hidden. It's oftentimes invisible. I think private healthcare is a great example of this, where
America's life expectancy is about the same as China's. So, okay.
To the recipient, to the victim, or the victim's families, they see that as murder. Right? They see that as an unnecessary death that took place. And they feel that pain all the same. In the same way that that Brian Thompson's family, I'm sure, was and still is mourning the death of Brian Thompson. There are millions of Americans out there that have individuals in their lives that they loved, loved ones, immediate loved ones, distant relatives that they've seen suffer in their final moments as they, go through the process.
This doesn't look like he was inciting. Okay, let's see. Sticker campaign. 2 years, publication of material. He was Telegram messenger group. They had generated racist and anti-immigration stickers, printed off and displayed in public places. Obsessive interest in Oswald Mosley, British Union of Fascism. Risk of anti-Semitism normalized on the streets. They found a label printer and stickers with anti-immigration messages. So he was putting out these stickers himself, or he was getting other people to do it as well? Why would you make a judgment on this when you don't know what's on the stickers? If this is the article you're sending me. Found guilty of encouraging racially aggravated criminal damage. Okay, so if you take away this, found guilty of encouraging criminal damage, that's not getting jailed for tweets. If you're leading with your best example, which is what you should be doing, that's a really bad example. The fuck?
Process of trying to figure out the paperwork in a system that is designed to, let's be real, take as much money as possible from you in the form of premiums, and then create a profit incentive by refusing to pay for the healthcare.
Hasan, I get all that, and I empathize with that pain that those people feel. Yeah. But what I'm getting at is, you said he's innocent, then you said it's a meme, you say it's just a thing that people say. What I'm trying to understand is...
The reason why people say that is because I think...
Their anger doesn't make him innocent, right?
No,
if he shot a man who runs a healthcare insurance company,
yeah,
and they are angry with healthcare in America, that doesn't make him innocent, right?
It doesn't.
So isn't you and them saying that just flat out wrong?
Well, my reason for saying it is because you're innocent until proven guilty. But as far as what everyone else is saying, or...
Why the innocent until proven guilty? You wouldn't... He is such a fucking worm, man.
If I'm to analyze it, which I do as a part of my job, what I'm trying to explain to you guys is that from their perspective, it's revenge. And this is a very, very unhealthy feeling to have. This is why I talked about with Rostel that the concept of adventurism. This is something that traditional Marxists actually are very critical of. Adventurism does not lead...
God, he's really trying to lean into this Marxist intellectual fucking aesthetic, isn't he? God.
To any sort of serious changes, any sort of serious revolutionary changes especially. And yet, and all it does is create an environment of instability. I think that the perfect solution to ensure that this never happens, to ensure that there's no level of discontent that bubbles up to this degree, that would require a mechanism of enforcement by the government to enact stability, of course, which would also be just as violent, if not even more brutal, to a larger percentage of the population, to ensure that there isn't another, Luigi Mangione style situation, is good legislation, is fixing the systemic problems. Luigi Mangione is the breaking point. Luigi Mangione is the perfect demonstration of the system failing people. And I think that Luigi Mangione and the response to him has been one of the clearest examples that I have seen in a country like the United States of America, where people are normally supposed to be like horrified by cold-blooded...
Again, I don't know that much about the American healthcare system, although apart from that, it seems pretty shit. Despite the fact that America has roughly the same life expectancy as China. But if we're talking about what breaking for Luigi, he didn't have big run-ins with the fucking healthcare system. He was a young guy. But it's weird when this happens, because when we had attacks on MPs in the UK, I think one was murdered, or when we have violence in the UK, what people will often say, and this will happen after Christchurch as well, is they'll say, well, we condemn their actions, but he had chronic back pain. Okay, maybe I should look more into this, but before going into it, if we're going to talk about, he had back surgery that was botched, did he? Interesting. And this was something that could have been avoided with a national health service. Is that what we're saying? Like, what was his... Imagine if Hasan ever talks to Luigi on stream. I feel like I don't know if I want to go into a rabbit hole about this, because it's reminding me of his family was rich, it wouldn't have mattered. Like, has there been a whole debate about this, about whether or not he was actually fucked by the insurance system, or whether something else else happened, or what? Because I know if it's like when all these anti-immigration violence, when all this happens, the people who come out and generally say, yeah, I oppose this action, but it's the inevitable outcome of a broken system. These are the first people on earth who will lie through their teeth about immigration. These are the people who think that the majority of sexual violence in the UK is done by Pakistanis, right? These are the people who think that there are more people coming on small boats than there are coming on visas to this country. These are the people who think that who describe small boat arrivals as an invasion of military-aged men, as in, like, when they say that this problem inevitably produced this violence. So it's like, is it the problem that's inevitably producing violence, or is it the people who take that problem and multiply it by 1,000 on the social media feeds of a bunch of potential lone wolf actors, you know? Like, I wondered if you sat Luigi down and told him to explain the problems with the American healthcare system, I wonder if he would actually he would give you an accurate picture. Like, if he'd actually have correct stats, or if he would understand the insurance system, or if he knows what healthcare is like in different countries compared to America. My guess is he probably wouldn't. And I wouldn't trust Hasan to do it either.
Murder in the middle of the day.
He would. Oh, wait, but someone is really attached to. How do you even know that? Wait, what the fuck? Oh, that's. Oh, if you click and drag a highlighted text, it'll go onto the stream. Huh. Interesting. Okay, let me see. Did he say that? What did he talk that much about the American healthcare system? He wrote a 262-word handwritten document. 262 word. That's quite small. You should do a research stream about the US medical system. It's worse than you think. Okay, so I already don't trust you to say anything about the American healthcare system, because I didn't say what I think about the American healthcare system in any detail. I just know it's bad, but I don't know how bad it is. I don't know. I could be imagining something worse than what it is, for all you know, but okay. What did Luigi's document say? Luigi 262 word. To Luigi manifesto. Like, I know that guy who shot the two fucking Jewish, the Israeli embassy staffers. That guy was filled to the fucking gills with misinformation. So was the other guy, the guy who set himself on fire. I always forget his name. Let's see what he said. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial, some elementary social engineering, basic CA CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites had it coming. Reminder, the US has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly 42nd in life expectancy. United is the indecipherable largest company in the US by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but as our life expectancy? No. The reality is these indecipherable have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex. Okay. Aaron Bushnell. Oh, yeah. But I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. See, I feel like if people said this letter was fake. Oh. Okay. Well, that's helpful. Because I'm thinking if you're gonna kill someone, you need to know. You need to know for fucking sure that what you're doing is gonna be helpful in some way. That you got your facts down. Imagine not fact checking before you set yourself on fire or other people. Fuck. Not confirmed. Like, for one already, like the life expectancy has been going up in the last 3 years, but post-COVID. Whatever, dude. Whatever. Whatever. See, it's just like, if that's real, then he's already, even in his brief manifesto, he's got factual errors. What the fuck?
Their response being much more receptive to the action shows me that there is so much pain in people's immediate experiences that they recognize this instability. They don't have a vehicle to communicate it. They don't have
a bad in COVID. Yeah, but was that because of the healthcare system, or was that because of fucking Republicans telling people not to get the vaccine.
Be able to communicate this discontent, and they're simply moving into the least productive way to do politics, which is revenge, violent revenge. I think that that is something that we have to solve immediately, because it can't go on. I mean, you can't have more people just like randomly gunning people in the streets. That's not what a civilized society is supposed to work towards. That's instability, that's chaos. I don't want that.
Let me introduce you to the people I work with to protect my family against
Whoa.
that went around. So one of the things that I found shocking with the assassination of Charlie Kirk is obviously the incident itself, but it's also the reaction and the rhetoric that went around it. The people on the left who were celebrating it, which to me is, and to most right-thinking people, is absolutely abhorrent, and also the reaction on the left, and there were some people, particularly large influencers,
You
who
skipped the part where he said to watch the Michael Moore documentary. Did he actually tell people to watch the Michael Moore documentary? Oh. Many have illuminated the corruption and greed, Rosenthal Moore. What, sicko? Yeah, you shouldn't be making any decisions at all based on Michael Moore documentaries. What the fuck?
what they said was unforgivable. Where did you stand on it, and what were your opinions on the whole incident?
I mean, I was shocked. It was horrifying, but mainly horrifying because like it's impossible for me not to have a personal stake in this, because I was about to debate Charlie in 2 weeks, like 2 weeks prior to his assassination, or 2 weeks after his assassination. We were supposed to be debating at Dartmouth College, and this was a person that I had basically developed a political career in competition with, if that makes sense. Like I was on the left side, he was on the right side. We debated plenty of times. We debated at Politicon. We were very familiar with one another, and seeing that the number one fear that every person that does what I do become reality in real time was shocking. It was devastating. As far as my opinions on it, I mean, I had the misfortune of seeing it in real time happen as I was like trying to figure out what had taken place, and we were one of the first media outlets that actually broke the story. And my first thought was that this is going to lead to even more violence in the form of revenge, decentralized violence, and also that this is going to lead to state repression as well, in an effort to stamp out any kind of political discontent or any kind of political dissent, which hasn't fully come to fruition yet.
Yeah, I don't believe I ever actually saw Hasan's reaction to the Charlie Kirk killing. So I don't know why he's saying he broke the story, because it was it was a fucking filmed event, dude. What the fuck? You did? I don't think I did. No, I watched the react face. I didn't see him breaking the story, because obviously he knew about the story. He knew about the story before he watched the video, but surely before the video, there's a whole bunch of stuff. He was yelling at people in chat saying he didn't believe it. Please get me that. Oh my God, please get me that. Fuck. Please get me that. I kind of like because the way he's saying it here, he's saying, I was shocked by it. I was live and I broke the story before actually many of the media outlets did. And it really rattled me to my foundations. I feared for the future of our country. And I just know if I find this stream, it's going to be him spurging out and screaming at people. But fuck, does anyone have it? Like, just seeing the contrast is really funny. Where is the stream, though? I guess I can find the stream from the day. Or would this be it? No, that's fucking real.
I spent an irresponsible amount of money saying I hate this interview and it makes me want to take a long walk off of a short pier.
Well, you should only watch one streamer, and it should be me. Thank you so much, Grassroots Hegemon. I really appreciate that. Wow. Should be easy to find. Well, I find the clips industrial complex. His stream vault. He has a vault, doesn't he? Hasan Abi VODs. What's the... Oh, wait. This will be easy to find. What date was Kirk shot? 10th of September. Okay. It'd be findable. Here. Okay. Charlie Kirk news breaks. Okay.
New York.
Former mayoral candidate Jim Walden wants off.
Charlie Kirk just got shot at UVU, unconfirmed, but it looks like what just happened. Okay, first of all, you literally are a New York Times photojournalist.
Wait. I need to put this. There needs to be a sequence here.
Thankfully, this
Because the way he sells this versus what arrives in the post.
taken place, and what I do, and seeing that the number one fear that every person that prior to his assassination, like it's impossible for me not to.
Where did you stand on it, and what were your opinions on the whole incident?
Okay, tell us
I mean,
happened.
I was shocked. It was horrifying, but mainly horrifying because like it's impossible for me not to have a personal stake in this, because I was about to debate Charlie in 2 weeks, like 2 weeks prior to his assassination, or 2 weeks after his assassination. We were supposed to be debating at Dartmouth College, and this was a person that I had basically developed a political career in competition with, if that makes sense. Like I was on the left side, he was on the right side. We debated plenty of times. We debated at Politicon. We were very familiar with one another, and seeing that the number one fear that every person that does what I do become reality in real time was shocking. It was devastating. As far as my opinions on it, I mean, I had the misfortune of seeing it in real time happen as I was like trying to figure out what had taken place, and we were one of the first media outlets that actually broke the story. And my first thought was that this is going to lead to even more violence in the form of revenge, decentralized violence, and also that this is going to lead to state repression as well.
Okay, that's his retelling of that day, that fateful day. We broke it. One of the first media outlets to break the story. It rattled me. It made me fear for the future of our country. For the inevitable backlash of decentralized, but also state violence and weaponization of the means of violence. What actually happened?
Mayoral candidate Jim Walden.
That's
He
the
paused after saying he broke it because he knows he's lying.
that's the Hasan on the tin. What happens when what's inside?
Wants off.
I'll let the fucking TTS do its thing.
I agree with previous super chatter.
Thank you.
Charlie Kirk just got shot at UVU, unconfirmed, but it looks like what just happened. Okay, first of all, you literally are a New York Times photojournalist. Please don't do this, okay? This doesn't mean Charlie Kirk got shot, okay? This just means shots fired at the Charlie Kirk UVU event. That's a crazy leap. We don't know what happened. Please, don't come in here with breaking news like this, guys.
Between him
We
and
will
Dave
get...
Smith, you are a saint for doing this. I am breaking in hives. And no, I am not Lona's mother. But my husband is an Arab and my son looks just like Lona.
Thanks, Joan. I really appreciate that.
Get there.
I don't know what else. I'm happy for you. Congratulations on your good-looking lad.
Look at his page. Make Utah great again. What?
Yeah, he's not concluding. Yeah, he's right.
Who is this guy? He said Charlie Kirk was shot. That's crazy. If that's the case, if that was the case, there'd be fucking video footage of it, I'm pretty sure. I mean, this is not, it's Utah. It's not that backwards, okay? There's other accounts. None of them are journalists saying Charlie Kirk got shot. Okay, find me a video of the incident and I'll... Okay, that's not a video of the incident. That's just people saying Charlie Kirk has been killed in Provo, Utah. What the fuck? Charlie Kirk just got shot in the neck.
You know, I have like 2 friends who are in a Snapchat group chat, so I have to use that app. You know, on Snapchat, there's like this fucking, there's this sponsored feed where these stupid fucking videos And there's one where there's this game where you have to go from like left to right and you have to catch the number that gives your guy more shit, like more weapons to kill the things coming in front of you. But like they play it like deliberately badly so that you get the urge to download it. And then when you download the actual game, it's like nothing like the thing on the screen. It's like a total, there's like this whole fucking scam, but it's like a pay to play. So I'm guessing what people do is they just pay thinking that the thing in the advert's going to come one day, but it never does. Yeah, the fucking slopware. Yeah, the slopware games. This is kind of what that's like, isn't it? Like his retelling of him being the breaking news fucking journalist with deep human thoughts about the ramifications of the event, and it's actually just him fucking with his voice several semitones higher whinging at chat for him for not helping him get through the breaking news properly.
Please stop. They don't got internet in Utah or cameras. Okay, that is crazy. Does this mean your debate is canceled? Yes. That would mean the debate is canceled. If he got fucking shot in the neck, what the fuck is happening? Mike Lee, I am tracking the situation at Utah Valley University closely. Please join me in praying for Charlie Kirk and the students gathered there. How is this? How is it shots fired at Charlie Kirk event at Utah Valley University? Shots have been fired at Charlie Kirk event at Utah Valley University.
Wait, did the fucking Mail use this picture of Kirk for shots fired? This makes it look like shots were fired and someone snapped a picture of him reacting to the shot getting fired. What the fuck? Really? You broke the news before several, you're one of the first outlets. You're literally reading this story on the Daily Mail, you fucking liar. Why does he do this? Why does he go into these other platforms and just try to sell an image of himself that is completely fucking opposed to what he does all day on his stream? Isn't that like a bad strategy?
Showed event goers screaming as shots rang out on Wednesday. People at the event took to social media to share details of the moment someone opened fire at the Conservatives event. Kirk published a post on X just minutes before reports of the shooting emerged. How is there no footage of this? What the fuck is going on?
That's crazy. Was it like a loud, like...
Okay, there's a live stream.
He's like fucking politically catfishing the audience of Triggernometry with the way he's behaving. As if one of them's gonna be like, oh yeah, this guy. Might check out his stream, you know, this guy. Very wait, why is his voice higher? Fuck.
Did this live stream show the shots being fired?
Communism, the cyan blue brings out the green in my eyes. I ain't gonna lie to you, this is a bribe. Imagine you are China and I'm Hasan. Give wrench. I promise to do literally fucking nothing.
Thank you for the $100, you incredibly generous oil tanker of a human being. God damn it. I'm drinking the oil. Ooh. Thank you. Shit.
Why do you want to see your political opponent get shot so badly? What?
Hasan has a degree of high-speed rail, really showing your ignorance there, Lonerbot. Yeah, I don't think France has as much high-speed rail as China, proportionately. Am I wrong? Well, I thought China was like almost a third of their railways are high-speed. It's not going to be that for France, is it? I don't know what it is for France. I guess, is that how you would mention it? Or you would measure it? Would you measure what proportion of journeys taken by the populace? Spain has quite a surprising amount of high-speed rail. They got a growing high-speed rail. They're chugging on it. But I guess that's because the people care about it. Like you need in a democracy, if you're going to do a high-speed rail project, that's expensive and people need to care about it. HS2, faults or otherwise, no, it doesn't seem people give a fuck about us building high-speed rail. Yeah.
Bro, what will it take for you to believe? Wait, first of all, These two things are at odds with one another. It's my job to make sure that I fucking get this breaking news story correctly.
True. Yeah,
that's number
correct.
one. And number
He's
two,
learned
what a
from the JDAMs.
fucking stupid ass joke to make, dude. I have to confirm it.
Less critical. Well, yeah, because it's like, wouldn't it also, if you're a bigger country with more empty space, you would need, high-speed rail would probably be a much more efficient, wouldn't it be? You'd gain a lot more for having it there. Whereas in the UK, like how, bro, from Aberdeen to London, it was like 7 hours on the train. It's fuck all. It's not that much. To go from one end of the country to the other. In Scotland, like, unless you're coming in way up from the fucking tip, like from Wick or Thurso, most train journeys are only going to be like 2 hours. If that. Like, why do you need high-speed rail?
I can't just like go along with hearsay. These things are incredibly like there are so many fucking cameras on these sorts of things. What the fuck are you talking about? Charlie Kirk goes to a fucking a college campus. There's gonna be a lot of phone cameras out. Okay, around 60 minutes on that Twitter live link. Is it gonna? It doesn't show anything, right?
Oh, you want the wrench like you want to be a moderator. Oh, I understand. I didn't. Okay.
They still should not be mass murdered. Their children shouldn't be killed at the age of 0.
Well, now he wants.
We also don't condone Hamas either. We don't think that's all right.
We're not. Yeah, we're not supporting terror.
Say that one more time, real quick. We also don't condone Hamas. We think that genocide. People have a right to live, and that's kind of back to.
Oh shit!
You're gonna go down and see the. Get closer? Or are they like restricting you guys
Oh,
up here?
no.
It's too crowded.
It's just there's
Like,
so
that's not
much.
the.
So before we had a
yeah.
flag and we had it, so it was
Holy shit! Holy shit!
Okay, so then it cuts. The live stream literally cut.
Okay. So he had to bring up a Daily Mail article. Okay.
In an effort to stamp out any kind of political discontent or any kind of political dissent, which hasn't fully come to fruition yet, thankfully. But the administration certainly tried to use this as an opportunity to build new guidelines around surveillance and build new surveillance targets in general. The Trump administration has this. They released a memorandum, national security memorandum, that declared the intelligence communities to shift their priorities and attention of surveillance to Antifa, which they had previously declared a domestic terrorist organization, which is not a designation that exists in the United States of America because it is at direct odds with the First Amendment. This is the reason why the KKK is not considered a domestic terror organization. This is the reason why the Proud Boys and Atomwaffen, which is like a neo-Nazi formation that tries to recruit from the military, none of these guys are none of these organizations, even if you would normally consider them domestic terror organizations, are actually considered that. So it was a severe violation of the First Amendment, and then the follow-up to the surveillance targets and the surveillance priorities made me even more fearful about where this administration was going, where they declared any sort of anti-Christian, anti-capitalist, anti-American sentiment to be an indication of someone being an extremist, violent terrorist potentially. But then on top of that, there was even more vague things that they brought up, like I think it was like American being critical of the American moral family unit or something like that. Basically, it was just what the Republicans consider what the entirety of the liberal and all the way to extreme.
Australia always flirts with high-speed rail between the capitals along the east coast, but the political will isn't there because no one knows whether it would actually be used. Yeah, because Australia has big cities on the eastern and western coast, doesn't it? I don't actually know. I couldn't point where the cities are in Australia. I thought Perth was on the west, wasn't it? Canberra is on the... It's mostly west. God, Perth is just sitting on its own there, isn't it? I thought it's Todd. New South Wales is the busy fucker. I see. Right. And really, like, fuck all happens in the middle, does it? Darwin. So, do people just fly to go from, say, like, to go from Brisbane to Perth, but they just fly? You're not going to drive. You're going to drive that, are you? No fucking way. Do they even have roads in the middle of this bit here? Wars with ostriches.
Imagine the oil tanker I could be if only I had a wrench. Maybe a blue one.
Thank you for the $20, Grassroots. Really appreciate that. But yeah, again, like if you want high-speed rail, you're gonna have to fucking spend a lot of money, and people don't want to get taxed to pay for that shit.
Leftists or whatever think about the Republicans was now up for grabs in terms of priority targets for the surveillance apparatus. And
Brisbane to Perth was a 6-hour flight. Yeah, that's a big old fucking island, big fat island.
Like I said, we don't know where this is going to go for the time being. It is directly at odds with the First Amendment, but there have been some instances where people have been indicted. Kat Abu-Ghazaleh, like I said, who's running for office, is like one of the first high-profile politicians that have been targeted in this way. And I worry that once free speech goes away and once due process goes away in this country, we are full tilt fascist.
But I think that's a very valid point. My concern is as well, and it's the rhetoric that is getting ratcheted up on both sides. Both on the right, but both on the left. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. In my own country, we have Zara Sultana, who's a very prominent left-wing politician. She said the words, "We need to fight the fascists."
She is fucking useless, is what she is. Man, hasn't her entire project been destroyed by the Greens? Because while she was busy fighting with fucking Corbyn over calling him a misogynist or whatever, Polanski just gobbled up all of the fucking votes, all of the support. She's fucked. She's cooked.
Parliament, like, okay, in that we need to fight them.
She's going to be a Reddit mod.
Ballot box, and we need to fight them in the streets. Now, the problem is, if you ask most people what fascism is, I don't think they would be able to give you a clearer, coherent explanation or an analysis of the political ideology.
Well, let's be honest. By fascist, she means people like Reform who are not fascist. They are a centre-right party. They're not fascist.
Reform are more than a centre-right. A centre-right party? Really? What? So what's the Conservatives? Are they the centrist party? Like, this fucking Overton window shit is bullshit, man. It's so stupid. If you don't want to call them fascists, I mean, Reform, what are their policies or their positions? Very odd rhetoric and some very concrete connections to Russia. Okay, that's a thing. Populist rhetoric about doing away with the bureaucrats and the useless, faceless civil service or whatever, but then going in and finding out they're actually quite useful. Nigel Farage's sort of flip-flopping between funding the NHS more than anyone else, but also wanting us to have an insurance-based system. Insanely anti-human and humanitarian positions on immigration and wanted to deport people. I don't know what he would be like in power with regards to authoritarianism, though. I don't know. Based on his rhetoric and based on the kind of stuff that they advocate for out of power, it sounds like he would become in the same wing as the Orban group, like that right-wing populist illiberal democracy. Sounds like what he would do. Yeah, he wants to leave the Refugee Convention. He wants to leave the European Court of Human Rights, which actually rules in Britain's favor more often than not. So that'll be fun to get rid of that.
So
I don't know if I would agree with that.
Right, but the point.
Well, hold on a second.
Yeah, the problem is that Hasan probably couldn't explain why Farage is a fascist to save his life, so he's going to get fucking raped again on British politics. But okay.
Reform Party is
I think
fascist.
Reform Party, as it stands currently, is a nascent fascist parliamentary group that hasn't reached its full potential yet.
Could you define
in the same way that
fascism in this instance?
In the same way that I would say the modern Republican Party is or was throughout most of its history a liberal party, a far right but liberal party nonetheless, and it is becoming an illiberal or post-liberal party that is moving in the direction of fascism. Fascism is what's the best definition for it? Paleo-genetic ultranationalism, a in-group, out-group dynamic that is constantly seeking to destroy the out-group and dominate the out-group, even if the out-group is actually...
When I was in school, I had this friend who, bless his heart, he wanted to get smarter, right? So he decided one day that he was really talented at fucking sports and whatever the fuck else, like very socially intelligent, but yeah, he wasn't that good at like school. Wasn't very clever. So he decided that he was going to get smart one day. And he decided to learn a new word every day. And that was his way of getting smart. Why do I feel like I'm seeing a bit of that in this paleogenetic? What the fuck? What was that word he used again?
Part of paleo-genetic ultranationalism.
Paleo-genetic. What? Okay. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember like we're getting stoned in a park, like, and he just, hey, do you know what a theologist is? I was like, I'm 16. I don't know what a theologist is. That's someone who studies religion. Oh, shit. Where do you, you're learning a word a day to get smarter. Shit, cool.
A in-group, out-group dynamic that is constantly seeking to destroy the out-group and dominate the out-group, even if the out-group is actually a part of civilized society, and surrounding itself with this like mythologized understanding of this national or ethnic or religious mythology of the higher group.
But it would also include authoritarianism, the end of the one-party state, like all of these.
Not always, but yeah, usually, yes.
So by which of those standards would you say Reform is a fascist or neo? I can't remember how you said a nascent fascist party.
Well, the reason why I say that is because, I mean, Mussolini's fascist party
He doesn't know anything about Reform. Oh, God.
I mean, Mussolini's fascist party wasn't active.
Then the description he gives is not palagenetic ultranationalism. I don't even, okay, let's find out what listen, I'm going to get smarter now because I'm learning a new word, okay? The student becomes the master. I made fun of this guy 20 years ago. And look at me now. Palingenetic. Oh, he said paleogenetic. Is it palingenetic? Roger Griffin. It's a definition of true fascism. He said it wrong. Nice. The need of a social revolution to occur first before a national rebirth. No, I think there was an N in there. There was definitely an N. Okay. Wait, is this guy actually a fascist or is this guy just analyzing it? It sounds like he is a fascist. Not stated in earlier political treatises on fascism. So this is the guy who thinks there needs to be a revolution as a precursor to fascism. But wouldn't you say this is the opposite? This is such a useless fucking phrase for analyzing contemporary people that we call fascists. Like for analyzing contemporary fascists, they don't strive for a social revolution. They do the opposite, where they use the tools of liberal democracy and they use the tolerance of liberal democracy as a foot in the door, and then start to suppress those. They start to reform away those freedoms. Like Orban is not a revolutionary; he is an illiberal Democrat. He lives in what's called an illiberal democracy, which is when you start to slowly roll back freedom of press, but like doing it through, for example, like control of the free market. Like Berlusconi did that, right, with his media ownership, or Orban with like slowly using the threats of them transing your kids or whatever to take out LGBT stuff, or saying like we're going to get rid of LGBT propaganda, and then that's their way of banning fucking gay marriage and gay rights. Like that's very different from whatever this is. Okay, but we said a long word, so there we go.
Fascist party within the parliament before it became the centralized form of governance.
But they said we are fascists, right?
I know, but that was because the word fascism was just being invented at that point, and therefore it was still packaged as like a revolutionary, new, illiberal way.
Okay,
they didn't come into power. We now live in a post-World War II universe where like you can't say that you're fascist.
So you think that if Nigel Farage, which is currently they're leading the polls, you think that if he is elected, eventually he will suspend democracy, he will start pogroms against Muslims, using the state, he will, have a one-party state. You think that's where this is heading?
Bearing in mind that the chairman of Reform Party, Sia Yusuf, is a Muslim.
Yeah, still doesn't matter. I mean, there was Jews that worked within the Nazi government command structure as well. It's just like
no, there fucking weren't. You lying fucking pseudo-intellectual frat fuck. What are you talking? There were Jews at the higher level of the Nazi government. What?
I mean, there was Jews that worked within the Nazi government command structure as well. It's just like
work within the Nazi government command structure. Jews in the Nazi government. No, they're fucking. No, there were not, actually. What the fuck? Jews in the Nazi government. What do you think the Nazis were? This is the problem, man. This is the problem with comparing everything to. He's watered down what Nazism means because he's been so fucking busy condemning Israel and calling Israel fucking Nazi 2.0 that he thinks that that's what Nazism is. No, the Nazis had a policy where you actually had to prove that you were an Aryan to get into the party. You had to be an Aryan. Maybe he's referring to like the couple of officials who rumors would spread around them saying that they were fucking that they had like one Jewish grandparent or something. That happened to a couple of people, but those people, if it emerged that they had a Jewish grandparent, they were in trouble, right? Then it became a question of like, okay, it's like, okay, one of your 4 grandparents was Jewish. You've never been raised Jewish, or you didn't even know that you had a Jewish, who gives a fuck, right? Or you have people like him. I think there was one guy who was in the SS, and I think a rumor spread about them having a Jewish grandparent, and Himmler wanted them kicked out. No, they were not Jews. We're comparing this to the reform leader or the reform chairman being a Muslim. Fucking hell, man. Stop doing this. Stop. I don't know why. He doesn't care about fucking World War II or the Holocaust or anything like that. He doesn't care about it. Stop using fucking history as this. I don't know why, like to him, I guess, because he brings up the Holocaust more often than most people I know. Where's that stupid fucking tweet that he said about Holocaust education stopping people from doing another Holocaust, and he means Gaza? Where was that? What the fuck? Imagine this guy in a fucking... I hope he gets this message. Because I would hate to see the day if he ends up doing more of these adversarial conversations and he debates like fucking Yosef Haddad. And Yosef Haddad does his old, we had an Arab judge. How can we be apartheid when an Arab judge sentenced a Jewish prime minister to prison? An Arab judge. And then Hasan's going to be like, well, who cares? You know, there were Jews at the highest levels of the judiciary of the Nazi government sentencing Nazis for crime. No, there fucking weren't. You stupid fuck. It's not even niche Nazi history, okay? It's called the Nuremberg Laws. Even before the Nuremberg Laws, but these are the ones everyone knows about, right? Look, this is quick. It's quick. You can go to a nice little website here that puts in big, boggly fucking writing, big, googly font. It's almost like Comic Sans because of how fucking easy it is to read this shit. Jews could not do anything of important in the fucking Third Reich. They couldn't do shit. Couldn't even be citizens, let alone in the higher levels of the Nazi government structure. Oh my God. I think even from 1933, one of the first things that they passed was to kick Jews out of government positions. What was it called? Nazis, Jews out of government positions. Law for the restoration of the professional civil service. That was in April. April 1933. This was around the same time when the KPD was saying, don't worry, bro. The revolution's coming next. They got rid of the Social Democrats. There's light at the end of this shit creek. God damn it, man. It was this, wasn't it? Where's the name of it? When the Nazis assumed power in 1933, most German civil servants were conservative, nationalistic, and authoritarian in outlook. Yeah, because they were left over from the Kaiser. After political opponents were purged from the civil service, government workers shared the Nazis' anti-communism and rejected the Weimar Republic. They regarded the Nazi regime as legitimate, felt to obey the law. Most were not radically anti-Semitic. Oh yeah, here. Decrees prohibiting marriages between Jews and German-blooded people. Yeah, dismissal of Jews from the civil service. And that's right from 1933. That was really early on. Restoration of the civil service, they called it. God, what was that sentence?
There are always going to be people.
This is heading.
Bearing in mind that the chairman of Reform Party, Sia Yusuf, is a Muslim.
Yeah, still doesn't matter. I mean, there was Jews that worked within Jews that worked within the Nazi government command structure as well. It's just,
Nazi government command. God, you're so fucking retarded, man. Stop. I understand for this guy, right, that history and knowledge is just a giant fucking gaping pussy ready for this guy to just rape and fucking brutally contort to suit whatever his brain dead political agenda is. But God, it's stuff that you can learn in 5 minutes. It's like the spark notes of Nazi Holocaust history. The Nuremberg, you learned that when you're fucking 12 years old, man. Like the fucking Nuremberg laws where Jews couldn't even be citizens. How are they going to be in the Nazi government structure? Meanwhile, responsibly using your power, the Holocaust education is too successful. It made the kids anti-Holocaust while Israel is trying to do one. You don't know anything about the fucking Holocaust, apparently. The Holocaust, which was directed by, you know, the Germans alongside a good handful or dozen token Jews, apparently. Fuck me.
It's like there are always going to be people that
What an insult.
Come from they come from the background of the targeted out group in general, and it doesn't even end with Muslims, is what I mean. It's going to it always
In
has
before the but what about the guy with the fucking German the SS officer with the Jewish mother? Yeah, and it got them in huge fucking trouble because that was not normal. You didn't do that. Fuck me. If you had a rumor that one of your parents was Jewish, and you could have gone your whole life not knowing about it, you were fucked. There were entire party scandals over this shit, over members getting involved with fucking Jews and shit. Fuck me. Fuck.
It always has to excise what it considers aberrations. And there is always, like with Nazi Germany, for example, the next stage, if they hadn't failed.
Tell us more about anti-Nazi Germany. Come on, with your fucking specialist knowledge on that subject.
So dramatically in its endless militarism would have most likely been to create the Übermensch structure, like the start going after people who were maybe brown-haired and didn't have blue eyes. Like there's an endless expansion of that sort.
And you think that's what reform will do? They'll suspend democracy, they'll start a one-party state.
This is super in the future if they actually get to that point, but I don't think that it is far-fetched to assume that, yes, reform through a process of...
Reform's thing isn't about Übermensch. Like, I don't know why it's so difficult to acknowledge that some racists are different from each other. Like, not all racists are the same, not all right-wingers are the same. Reform's thing is xenophobia. That's the thing that they bounce on. It's xenophobia. You're not going to see like racial purity tests from the Reform Party. That's not their thing. The Übermensch structure. He's just saying words. It doesn't matter.
Initially, reforms. I could totally see them getting to that position. Yes.
What's your basis for saying that? Though?
It's entirely dependent on how material conditions unwind. If it gets to a point,
it's dependent on how many socialists can. How many more socialists get interviews in the New York Times where they? Because if they don't. If you know it's only going one way, even though Britain didn't actually become fascists when fascism was rising, even though Britain actually fought against the fascists, even though Britain actually fought against the fascists for a couple of years for a year and a bit on its own, when the Nazis were still getting help from the Soviets. Fuck me.
Where there's tremendous
so fucking stupid. Ugh. All right, Nuremberg laws, man. The Nuremberg laws. It's like if you're given like a 10-point timeline of World War II and the Nazis. Nuremberg laws are going to be there. That's fuck.
Economic stability. Then instead of solving those issues in the same way that the American movement, the Trump movement, is not solving these issues, they will continue to be a force of political repression.
But what's your evidence for this? This is the thing I don't understand.
The evidence is the historical patterns that I'm looking at. Historical patterns of the
historical patterns that are based on a bunch of historical things that I've just made up on the spot like a fucking moron. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Why?
Like no one who knows anything about history talks about history and predicts the future in this way. No one does this. No one who knows anything about how history goes will talk about in these broad fucking blunt terms. It's so dumb. It's so fucking pseudo-intellectual. Fuck.
Fascism has been implemented in the past, and now, like I said, we live in a post-fascist world. We live in a nuclear world. The dynamic is different. Okay, so fascism will not come as a third way, as an outsider any longer. I think instead you will see far-right elements within liberal society, within the parliamentary structure, move in that direction.
But my worry with this is, and this is why I'm not trying to like debate bro you or anything. I'm genuinely engaging with what you're saying. I hope you feel that, right?
Yeah.
The issue I have in the context of the discussion we're having about Charlie Kirk is you've got a situation where you are calling reform fascists. I know some people in reform, they're not fascists.
You know, I do. Wow, what a fucking brilliant argument. Yeah, it's very clever. I think that people like Hasan use the leftist, they use the historical angle. Like they do that very well because I think most people just don't know that much detail about historical events. Like because we tend to just learn the basics in school, then we forget it, and then we just that's it, it's done. So they get away with it, right? With saying that there were Jews in the upper command structures of the Nazi government or whatever the fuck, or saying that like, oh, because of the historical trends of the past, that's how we know that reform are going to become a race scientist Übermensch party. Like that's really the rhetoric of reform. but I guess he gets away with it because people just don't know. And I've noticed that as well when I've been reading a bit more about China and the kind of progression of Mao's rule. It's like, yeah, every time you just read like a little bit of history about any of these events, like it feels like you're seeing through the matrix of all this fucking bullshit that people spread, right? Like about these events.
They don't believe in a one-party state. They don't want to end democracy, right? We've had Nigel Farage on our show. It's very clear where he's an old school Thatcherite kind of guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying he's a fascist. And my worry is...
I think he will get there.
Okay, you're saying he will get to fascism. Fair.
If material conditions get to a point
I got it.
where there's mass instability in an effort to
It's a nascent fascist party that in the right context will become fascist. I get it, right?
And the same, not dissimilar to
here's my
the
point.
AFD, the nationalists in France.
Reform is very different from the AFD, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
My point is this. If I thought the fascists were coming, I would feel it's my duty to participate in armed resistance against that. And my worry is part of where the political violence is coming from is people like you who are using this term, in my opinion, far too loosely and projecting historical analogies onto people that you're not that familiar with, actually. And then you're really putting a target on their back. And my worry is the reason Charlie Kirk was killed is there were far too many people calling him a fascist, which he wasn't, right? And that's my concern with all of this irresponsible
Charlie
language.
Kirk was quite fashy.
Which I think it is.
Mm-hmm. So what's interesting about the utilization of language here is the fact that you can't really point to a single Democratic Party politician that has celebrated Charlie Kirk's death.
Sure.
Or, but you can actually, in many instances,
lots of Republicans
point to Republican politicians that have made a mockery of the Democratic
and we've
legislators.
had people make that point on the show. You don't need to make it because we've had. But you're on the left, I'm asking you about left-wing.
The reason why I'm saying that is because, like, there are always going to be people on the right and on the left that engage in this kind of commentary as a reflection of how much discontent that they experience. But ultimately, if
I'm saying you're one of them. You are calling reform fascist.
No. That's a totally.
You don't align with those positions, though. LOL. Yeah. Well, he's just he's correct when he shapeshifts into being a social democrat. Not wrong.
First of all, my analysis on the way, like calling someone a fascist if they're exhibiting historic fascist tendencies is perfectly valid. The consideration that this actually is like turning up the temperature as opposed to like directly calling for violence against a nascent fascist party, as opposed to trying to deal with it through the existing means within the democratic structure is ridiculous. There's no comparison here. Fascist movements, when they were initially forming, albeit in a much more violent time,
more fascist history. Let's go. We're about to get so educated.
Engaged in street protests, and there were counter protests against it. Like I am in favor of always exhausting all available options within the confines of liberal democracy. And I think what the problem is that a lot of people point to the endpoint of fascism, and what they know is the endpoint of fascism, and say, well, they have to be dealt with militarily, and the time for that is now. I'm saying the time for that is not here, and I hope that it never gets there, so that we can successfully resist against growing fascist movements that are born out of initially distractions or red herrings that put the crosshairs on some of the more vulnerable populations, and try to deal with it within the existing confines of liberal democracy, and then try to get our politicians to address some of these material problems so that we don't have to exhibit the instability and even potentially a fascist form of governance that comes out of that instability that then at that point will be resisted against militarily through sabotage or through direct acts of war.
The issue that I have with your argument...
Probably the best argument for reform's fascism would be their connections to Russia. Wasn't there was a guy who got sentenced to 10 years for taking Russian bribes just recently. He was the ex-leader of Reform UK in Wales. Their leader in Wales. 10 years, 10 and a half years for taking bribes from, and it's funny because you can see there are clips of the things that he was saying that looks like he was bribed to say them. And they're not that different from what Farage would say about Russia. Obviously, Farage will do it for free because he believes it, but yeah, fuck. That's some national security in action right there. 8 counts of bribery, received £40,000 for giving TV interviews and making speeches while working as an MEP, member of the European Parliament. Which is funny because if you remember what Farage said at the European Parliament, before he had discovered the very populist-friendly blame NATO position, he was blaming Europe for what happened in Ukraine. He was blaming Europe. Brexit Party MEPs. Let's go.
The next speaker will be Honourable Farage.
Farage.
Yeah. 2 minutes.
Amongst the
Nigel
long list of
Farage.
foreign policy failures and contradictions in the last few years, including, of course, the bombing of Libya, the desire to arm the rebels in Syria, has been the unnecessary provocation of Vladimir Putin. This EU empire, ever seeking to expand, stated its territorial claim on
the Ukrainians wanting to get into a customs agreement with Europe over Russia's bloc. That's it. Fucking, I hate this cunt so much, man. He is such a fucking psycho spiff cunt. Oh god, he is such a scam artist piece of shit. In here making money off the European Union while he shits on them. Just barely ever turns up to the fucking parliament.
Ukraine some years ago. Just to make that worse, of course, some NATO members said they too would like the Ukraine to join NATO. We directly encouraged the uprising in the Ukraine that led to the toppling of the President Yanukovych, and that led, of course, in turn to Vladimir Putin reacting. And the moral of the story is if you poke the Russian bear with a stick, don't be surprised when he reacts. Now, just to continue with that, today we are rushing through an association agreement at undue speed with the Ukraine, and as we speak...
Association, he knows about the agreement, which means he must know that Yanukovych promised to fulfill it and then didn't, and then that's why the protest started. Fucking hell.
There are NATO soldiers engaged in military exercises in the Ukraine. Have we taken leave of our senses? Do we actually want to have a war with Putin? Because if we do, we're certainly going about it the right way. Perhaps we ought to recognise that the West now faces the biggest threat and crisis to our way of life that we have seen for over 70 years. The recent beheadings...
NATO... Was this before or after Russia annexed Crimea, Mr. Forage? It was after! Fuck you! I hate him so much. He is such a scamming cunt. Because he knows. I refuse to believe he isn't smart enough to know what he's doing here. The fact that he actually mentioned the association agreement, like he named it the association agreement, he knows what he's referring to. He knows that the Ukrainians supported this en masse. And that's why they went against Yanukovych, because he betrayed them on it. Fuck.
Of the British and American hostages graphically illustrates the problem. And of course we have our own citizens from our own countries engaged in that struggle too. In the war against Islamic extremism, Vladimir Putin, whatever we may think of him as a human being, is actually on our side. I suggest we grow up. I suggest we recognise the real threat facing all of our countries, communities and societies. We stop playing war games in the Ukraine and we start to prepare a plan to help countries like Syria, like Iraq, like...
What war games? What war games did Europe do? A fucking a trade agreement that Ukraine wants to join. Oh, God.
Kenya, like indeed Nigeria, to try and help them to deal with the real threat that faces us. Let's not go on provoking Putin, whether we like him or not.
Thank you. Mr. Farage.
Mr. Forage.
Hasan, is this?
Hello, YOLO. Swag. Is there a TTS? No, there's not. But thanks for the $9.99. The active materialist conditions in the context of oppressive capital structures are largely the result of Zionist structures created to serve the dominant hegemonic capitalist structure actively. Thank you so much. ZJM, thanks for the $19.99. Fox Poser, thanks for the $10. Wonder Silverstrand, thanks for the 25 Hong Kong dollars. I'm high as a kite and feeling a tad socialist. Here's some redistribution of my personal wealth to a starving Scot artist. That's me. Bad Company, thanks for the $10 for 2 donos. Funny how he's concerned about the 33% that want Sharia law, but not concerned with the 33% that want Trump to rule as king. Oh, but when they say that, they're just kind of memeing. Never take anything MAGA says seriously. And thanks for the $5. Got to look up the clip where he claims Biden took more vacations than Trump. Wait, really? Oh, God.
You're saying they're exhibiting... So,
ZJM, thanks for the 5 gifties. Really appreciate that. Wow. Shit. Blown King, thanks for the $5. And Wonder Silverstrand again, thanks for the 10 Hong Kong dollars. Thanks for the catharsis. Here's the 10% service charge. And Sigurd Carlson, thanks for the $9.99. Biggest drain on the state equals the olds. Sorry, Grandma, looks like you don't get to live 30 years without working, consuming things like housing, and making me pay taxes to give you your triple bypass. True. Turns out you can shove your granny off a bus. I'm joking. It's okay to pay taxes to feed the old. Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about that. You just have to acknowledge that we have to pay taxes. We have to pay big taxes.
On the way to fascism. You can make that argument about Keir Starmer and go, we're on the way to communism. But you laugh, but there are people on the right who say that.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you feel like they're also...
but that's not my
they're
point.
They're putting a crosshair on Keir Starmer when they say that?
Yeah, we don't have the same issues with communism, but I think if you describe people as communists in this country, I think you are putting the crosshairs on people. I really do, because there are people...
I mean, I get called a terrorist every day.
I know, I think that's disgusting.
Because you support terrorists, you fucking retard. Like, it's a... Yeah, if... So wait, are you acknowledging that these labels do incite violence against people, or they don't? Because you call people fascists all the time.
Well,
That's putting crosshairs on you.
Yes, it is.
And I absolutely, vehemently...
They're so respectable, these two.
That is unacceptable.
God,
but my point is, when you use that language of fascism or communist, these are labels that have a very, very real emotional trigger to people, understandably so. And what you have in this country is, unfortunately, there is a decent swathe of the population who have severe mental illnesses, plus access to guns. And what inevitably happens is it leads to a Charlie Kirk situation. Or it leads to somebody on the left like you, God forbid, happening.
Oh, I get a lot of death threats. Don't worry.
No, but I do worry, because it's a sign that a society is in crisis. And I agree. And I think that it's our responsibility, both people on this side, both people on your side, that we ratchet it down, Hasan.
I think that if we're talking about increasing the tension, people in positions of power have a lot more responsibility than random citizens that are in many instances reacting to that.
True.
In all due respect, we're not random citizens. We've both successful. We've both got huge platforms.
But I was just talking about like the broader left that you were talking about that said like, oh, they're celebrating Charlie Kirk or whatever. But beyond that, in terms of applying analysis to the actions of any person, Charlie Kirk or Nick Fuentes or whoever, and say that these are people who are implementing a lot of bigoted tendencies, a lot of racist opinions, and moving the American political direction towards fascist governance. I don't think that saying that you shouldn't be able to say that because you're invoking violent sentiment against your political opposition is crazy. I don't mind if people call me a communist. I don't mind if they call me a terrorist. It's not true, and it certainly makes a lot of people very angry, and they want to talk to me all the time about how they want to kill me and come to my house and murder me and my family. But it is unfortunately a part of the political discourse. I wish it didn't exist. But having said that, I am never going to stop myself from making accurate assessments and warning people that at this stage, we are at the precipice of something far more dangerous, especially in Western liberal democracy, as liberalism is genuinely failing. And that collapse is most likely going to bring about a lot of fascist governance that will try to restore order in the most militant ways, and it will resemble...
We can only hope that the liberal societies that stand are there to fight them, because my God, if we're going by the historical patterns, the communists will make a deal with the devil for 2 years and give them a whole bunch of fucking oil and shit so they can invade the liberal countries. And if they don't get invaded, they might just do nothing. We don't know what the Soviets would have done had the Nazis not broken the pact. Do we?
Historic fascist patterns.
Hasan, look, firstly, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for entering into the spirit of debate in the way it's intended. Really appreciate it. Final question is always the same. What's the one thing we're not talking about that we really should be?
Israel.
I mean, we did talk quite a bit about the collapse of liberalism around the globe. I guess in this instance, and I can't speak to all the other conversations that you guys have had, we didn't get to talk about Israel too much. And that's something that I wanted to talk about, which has also exhibited historical patterns of fascism in and of itself in a vein that is not dissimilar to what we're seeing in Western liberal democracies as well.
All right, well, I wish we had more time. Yeah. Maybe next time we can pick up some other topic.
All right.
Appreciate your time. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Wow, cool. Cute. That was fun. We learned a lot about the Jewish Nazi officers. Hell yeah. Subscribe, you fucking assholes. I mean, sorry.